All right. Hey, folks. So, JSAT here. I got Grim. Hello, it's Grim.
I
Say. So, we just had the patch drop. So, what we're going to do is step through the big changes and balance for the patch, not all of the fixes and tweaks and such, because I don't think any of those are significant. And then what we're going to do is step through every character one at a time and talk in general about the balance of the respective weapons, including a couple footnotes on traits. Like, we're not trying to make this, here's everything you should run in order of best to worst. It's going to be more like loose talk. Um, what the uses are, edge cases, and what's just plain good and what's just plain bad. So, want to get started?
Sure. I'm trying to pull up the patch notes right now.
We can start with balance. So the overall balance changes to traits. So I know you're a big fan of what they did with haste.
Yeah, we changed every case, but actually it's just a repeater handgun thing. It's pretty clever.
So what we're talking about is haste no longer just lets you keep firing and firing and firing if the weapon requires reload. Right? So oh, you know what I don't see here? I don't see here the talk about 3 seconds and 5 seconds. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The haste thing was actually just a fix, right? It originally was supposed to be 5 seconds for both things, and only one was 5 seconds, and now both were.
No, it was intentional for it to be 3 seconds, while the whole haste effect was 5 seconds. It became 5 seconds for everything
When they
in
removed
the
it.
the second beta.
Do we know if they
Yeah.
fixed that back?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to.
This is something worth testing. Okay, let's test it. So, 2 tests. Haste length.
I will be restarting my game right about now.
Okay, so we'll look at that in a moment. That's a pretty significant change one way or the other. So, repeater, handily nerfed. The only other weapons that haste mattered for was Wizard Conflag, maybe Fireball, and Drake Fires, and bows. So bows still have basically infinite ammo during haste proc. So haste is still extremely good on Hagbane, and might be, depending on whether the 5-second thing stayed from beta, it's either better than before on Hagbane, Drakes, and Conflag, or as good as before. In either case, still amazing. All right, let's continue. Move speed trinket basically means nothing.
Yeah, 8%, 12%. And if we do the math here, does 8% put you below 4.25 move speed, which would be the move speed of slaves?
Yeah.
Like, are you still mathematically faster than slaves, or have you been slower now?
Let's see. Base move speed is what? Isn't it 300? Or am I thinking Dota?
Babe move speed is 4, I think.
400. Okay. Well, it's 8%. 8, 16, 24, 32, 130, 432. Yeah, you're still above slave and still below clan. Anyways, that's like edge case anyways, because you're not running on straight clan anyways. So it's not going to make a big difference. You're going to have to be slightly more at risk if you're just straight running from clans.
It's mostly just that the 12% are going to leave those that don't have it in the dust when moving through a map. Not quite as much anyway.
True. So just a little tweak, but it doesn't affect what really matters, the quick foot. So moving on. Grenadier. It reduced the proc rate. That's the proc rate of bomb dupe.
That's the dupe.
The weapon, it was rarely used as it was. It'll be slightly less used now. It's pretty edge casey, right? Like for straight kata, it's kind of cute.
Like, it doesn't change anything. It's just whether it procs, whether it doesn't proc when you're using it. You know, like yes, I'll proc less often now.
Right.
It's still the highest proc chance of the 3, just not by a ridiculous margin now.
Yeah. Well, you didn't see it used too much, as it were. The real enemy, what am I trying to say here? The real culprit with bombs is explosive ordnance, bomb radius.
Yeah.
The increase to radius from 60% to 40%, you'll hardly feel.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the move speed. It's not the old effect that matters. It's the new one, which in this case is the no friendly fire thing.
Berserking changed to attacks are now uninterruptible for buff duration. I played with Berserking in a few weapons over the beta 2 to see how this felt. It was not noticeable for me.
Yeah, for the most part, it's like it tries to keep Berserker more in line with Swift Slang, in that it performs its thing properly. It's like if you get hit, like it reduces the damage you take. But the thing is, even though you took 50% damage, you'd still get your hits interrupted and whatnot if you got hit. So you still really didn't want to get hit while under Berserker, which kind of nullified the use of the effect. But now, since you're immune to all sorts of stagger from getting hit while under Berserker, you can actually appreciate the fact that it reduces the damage you're taking.
So the weapon I can most think of with hit interrupt being a big deal is two-handed hammer. But two-handed hammer is not a slaying weapon, so berserking won't trigger much. So I don't see the weapon that this will be great on. Red glaive might benefit slightly.
Oh, doesn't the one-hand sword kind of get interrupted? Like on higher ping as well.
True.
Is where it'll really shine. When getting interrupted on high ping, it's such a bitch.
So I think it'll matter more for lower level play where people don't initiate or know how to initiate with a dodge into swing at the same time.
I mean, that's the thing with damage reduction. If you're not getting hit, what does it matter if you're taking 100 or 10 damage? So yeah.
So it could be a pretty insane trait for Nightmare, like berserking regrowth normal, just walking through hordes like
Nightmare
it's a joke.
Onslaught, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, it's not a bad thing. Berserking needed something a little to compete with Swift Slaying.
Yeah,
it's not Swift Slaying, but it's fine. It's fine. I love the KB nerf. I love the KB nerf. You feel it so much when you play with it. So people are going to tell you... Go ahead.
I didn't use many killing blow weapons myself. Like, I obviously preferred the Falcon. When I didn't play the Falcon, I also didn't play many killing blow weapons. Like, even when I played one-hand sword on Cyan, I wouldn't play KB on it. Even on Death Wish, things like that. Yes. Don't know, it doesn't affect me as much as it would affect other people. The only weapon I rarely used KB for were Red Sword and Dagger whenever I used it, and the one-handed mace for Dwarf, which is like his only really viable weapon that feels like for me besides the single target stuff.
I do think that the change the change to the killing speed of one-handed hammer and one-handed mace as like an unintended huge nerf is significant, and I was advocating for a third target to be added to those weapons to do damage to try to compensate a little bit. But as for Storm Vermin, so people will tell you, yeah, you can still headshot Storm Vermin. I know how to headshot Storm Vermin. The big difference here is you have to choose now when you're using like one-handed sword versus Storm Vermin and Clan Rats. Normally what you would do historically is you would swing in such a way that you would cleave through rats and then tap Storm Vermin with, you know, your fourth hit or something.
Yes.
So you can get control and random chances of Storm Vermin procs. And if you were good at it, you would kill all the Storm Vermin by the time the Horde was killed without ever really having to focus on them. That's dead. And God help you if you had 4 people that were good at that at the same time, or even 2 or 3. Storm Vermin would die incidentally with hordes every time, and it was just boring.
Even in Death Wish.
Even in Death Wish. Yes, and it down with that. I'm so glad it's dead. It also gives Pick an interesting, unique identity.
Because the Pick can still do all of the Pick still needs to hit the Storm Vermin as the first target for it to actually do damage. The off-target hits don't do damage to armored, so it's not completely ignore the Storm Vermins and let it watch it die here. You still have to hit it directly, but the direct hit staggers it as well, and even the off-target hits.
We'll talk about Red Pick more when we get to Dwarf, because obviously when I say Pick, only Pick I mean is Red Pick. Hawkeye, I think we can talk about this in the context of the weapons, but we could talk it briefly now. True Flight received a couple different nerfs, and we'll talk about that in the context there. Basically, True Flight is still extremely good. Much slower kill speed on armor because it's double, and a lot more ammo pressure than ever before. So you can't do everything with one weapon, which is good. Other weapons, like what? Go ahead.
One thing one funny thing with the True Flight, where we went full circle. We're back to the values it had before 1.5. Besides resisted, but yeah, resistant is slightly lower because it was 30 back then. But yeah, it used to do 12 armor damage with a ×3 headshot. Well, the headshot was 12 damage. They had 4 × 3 for 12 damage.
So
yeah,
I'm also kind of glad that weapons that were mostly pace weapons /pace/ anti-special and / anti-armor weapons like longbow, crossbow, beam staff, yada yada yada, had a significant nerf to ogre DPS. It was kind of out of control. Like, if you knew how to play beam staff, You could DPS almost as much as Hagbane versus Ogre. It was pretty absurd. Perhaps even more so. You can one strength pot Ogre on Kata with Hawkeye Beam Staff in last patch. It'll be harder to now.
I mean, yeah, I could do that with a crossbow as well. It's like, and when I tried it with the longbow, longbow is still fairly effective at it because you could put two arrows into it. Like you can shoot rotation faster than the crossbow.
Yeah.
The longbow now.
But I think longbow actually deserves to have.
Yeah, because you actually have to aim.
Yeah.
So does the crossbow though. But yeah.
Yeah, I was a little sad about crossbow Ogre DPS taking the hit that it did. A little sad.
I'm in white strat on my game right now. Let me test the gun flag. Hopefully
to see if you get 5-second haste.
It is still 5 seconds.
Okay, great. So let's go back to haste. The haste change is very big for Drakes in particular. Though of course they haven't implemented the change we've been trying to get them to change. The prioritizes near targets. God forbid, right? No. Okay. Anywho, so why don't we step through the rest? So we'll elf changes first. Do you want to do elf changes and then we'll talk elf balance, and rather than all the changes, then all the balances?
Sure. You're the one who's got the most experience on elf by far. I'm the one who does Saltzpyre the most.
I have played the beta patch for hours and hours and hours. This is the beta patch. So I already did videos on these changes, especially the dual dagger changes. And everything I said there is still applicable, but we can break it down. So True Flight, down. Hagbane, slightly up. Longbow, significantly up. Short bow, do you do the tra-la-la thing you do for me? I like how you say it. Yeah, that's the one. And dual wield daggers, very cool for specialized use with a little bit more DPS, but still very inflexible, still not a very good general purpose weapon. So let me be specific. True Flight bow is insane. It has been insane for a long time. You have to know the game to make it extremely insane. And what do I mean by that? I mean you have to know where spawns tend to be.
You mean your Death Wish clutch that you post through
Yes. Yes, exactly. So you need a couple skills to make True Flight insane. One, you need a lot of situational awareness. Two, you need to know the maps enough to know where spawns tend to be, so you can pre-fire them through the walls. Three, good headphones. That kind of goes back to one. And four, and this is the one that I don't see discussed too often, really good handgunners and true flighters and bolt staffers and conflag users, they know how to aim, do their business, and dodge dance around melee range targets at the same time. So really good true fighters, since they don't have to spend an incredible amount of attention lining up and taking distance shots at specials, etc., even when no one on their team is playing smart and protecting the anti-special guy, can still get the shot off. So True Flight loses none of that ability. It's still insane against 3 of 4 specials. It's still really, really good against the 4th one. It's still really, really good against Storm Vermin, and it's still really, really good against Ogre. As someone who could reliably pump out 600-700 damage to an Ogre.
It's taken quite a bit hit against Ogre, since you're encouraged not to run Hawkeye much anymore.
Yes.
And if you don't run Hawkeye, then you're doing 96 to the Ogre, which
is
rather low.
Yes.
Considering the amount of ammo you have, you're not going to kill the Ogre even with your entire ammo supply.
Correct. So that's what happened. This patch makes it so you can't do everything. The things that it does well, let me phrase that. It doesn't do everything as well anymore. It's less good against Storm Vermin. It's less good against Gunner. It's less good against Ogre. So that's significant. That's very significant. And there's more ammo pressure than ever because it's less good at those things. So it basically necessitates melee this sword. I mean, red sword's okay, but it basically necessitates this sword. Regrowth, Scavenger, KB. Though I could see arguments about giving up KB and just Regrowth, Scavenger. And unfortunately, since Sword Dagger only has 5...
Scavenger, second win?
Second win, DB, depends on what you want to play. Right, that's totally possible.
That's what I run with Kruber. It's like one in Soul with the Elf and one in Soul with Kruber can be compared on the kind of traits you want to use. Except the one in Soul with the Elf has more options.
So regrowth, melee regrowth, 10% regrowth weapons that have it is flipping insane. And melee Scavenger got a huge buff in 1.9. And it's more necessary than ever to enable True Flight. Okay, enough on True Flight. Let's talk Longbow. Longbow, the changes of significance.
Finally has a place.
It has a place now, haha, as a pace weapon. It's not hard to kill most of the clan rats. When you get good at it, when you can run through the map, notice a storm vermin, watch his head for a second. As soon as he turns, then you take the shot. Learn the weapon drop, etc., etc. It's a great pace weapon against all of those things. It's still pretty tough to hit specials in the head.
It compares with the crossbow a lot. The specials, like the assassins and globadiers, you don't even try to headshot them. Most of them. You just do 2 shots.
Just
like
spam.
It's 2 body shots. So
well, it's 5 body shots against a gunner. And 5 body shots against a storm vermin.
The gunners and the storm vermin, you care about the headshot.
Yes.
Because same with the crossbow.
Yes.
Like it does less body damage than the crossbow, but it shoots faster than the crossbow. And even with the crossbow, when you're faced with an assassin or a globadier,
body shot double.
An assassin, yeah, you do 2 body shots.
But
with
here,
the crossbow,
that's
you
what's
don't
changed.
Try with the assassin because it's obnoxious. But
this is the nice thing, Grim. They just made 10 body shot damage with charge attacks. So now it's no longer 3 shot, it's 2 shot against assassin, which is really big.
Now the longbow needs the same amount of body shot as the crossbow does, but it shoots faster than the crossbow.
Yes.
And even the crossbow already took the time to take 2 shots. It didn't care. Like you face a globadier with a crossbow, you shoot twice. You don't care. You have plenty of time to do it most of the time. And now the longbow shoots faster, so the longbow becomes quite good at it.
So
you don't even need the headshot on those.
Weaknesses of longbow is it's pretty awkward with the draw time, and then shot into quick switch is delayed slightly too. The delay is a byproduct of an old glitch where you could fire, double quick switch, fire, double quick switch. They put a manual delay time afterwards, so it's a little awkward. So you have to know how to dodge, pull it out, play it, etc. But it's fine. It's kind of like True Flight. In fact, it's easier to get the shots off with this than True Flight in ideal scenarios. So I think it's going to be a great weapon. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Yes, exactly. It's less time. You need a full half second to get a lock on with True Flight after the switch. With this, I think it's like a third of a second, which is noticeable with practice. So I think it's great. I think Hawkeye is still great. I think Mastercrafted is mandatory. I think Skirmisher is great. Hawkeye brings you up to enough damage to one-shot armor, which is, for Kata, necessary. So I think it's a mandatory trait. I think Mastercrafted is a mandatory trait. I think Skirmisher is nearly mandatory, but you probably get away with ammo. Bringing back, here's the thing: you have to use the charge often, right? And the increase to movement speed, the 50% increase to movement speed under it is very noticeable. And I think it's actually more than 50%. I forget how it works exactly.
Yeah, the thing with Skirmisher is that yes, it increases the movement speed when you're under the full aim like that. Like it's the same as the conflict, but if you hold it like that, look at the move speed I have holding the conflict like this.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah, but if I just wait for, I don't wait for the full circle, the move speed doesn't kick in immediately. It's the same with the longbow. If you just do the if you keep firing as well, you just keep moving on at full speed without Skirmisher.
Yes.
The move speed flow only comes in play if you're holding it.
There's times you're going to have to hold it to get the aim off for the headshot.
True, but usually it doesn't matter much if you're moving at full speed or not when you're holding it.
So, as someone who's played a shit ton of longbow, I feel it. It's substantial for me. If you learn to use it without it, I'm sure it's fine. It depends on how much pressure you're going to be under when you're trying to get off clutch shots. Yep. That's what it comes down to. Okay.
Yeah, the main thing though is that if you're holding it long enough to feel the need to have the skirmisher move speed, you're trying to aim, you're actually trying to aim something that you have slight trouble aiming quickly, which means that movement is going to throw off your aim slightly. Usually if you need that much aim, you'll want to stand still sometimes.
Not straight back and straight forward. Straight back has perfect aim, which comes up with Ogre sometimes too, when you're waiting for him to stop jiggling his head for a second. That's the other thing. With longbows, since it's a projectile, you have to wait. Anyways, I will absolutely say that the third trait is Skirmisher. Mastercraft's at Hawkeye, essentially mandatory. Skirmisher can probably be something else. Doubling back for a moment to talk about True Flight, I think Hawkeye Mastercrafted Scavenger is the best. Ammo doesn't matter much because it doesn't get you over breakpoint to get 2 ammo per melee scavenger or scavenger proc.
It could be HOD. The longbow already gets to ammo 2 ammo from a scavenger proc from being over
Correct.
40 ammo base.
Correct. I'm talking about True Flight. I doubled back to talk about True Flight for a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think melee ammo or ammo for longbow is very important. But I think for True Flight,
I went for
Hawkeye,
the third trait
Mastercrafted
with
Scavenger.
longbow. Third trait with longbow, I went with Hail of Doom.
Which is reasonable. It's definitely arguable.
Yes, like you'll get those sometime insta kill against Globadiers or Assassins or even like the Hail of Doom shot usually doesn't go exactly at the same place as the original shot.
Yep.
So it kind of like increases the radius of where you're gonna get a headshot sometimes.
It's funny.
You get what I mean? It's really marginal, but yeah.
So I think True Flight, the third trait over Hawkeye is HOD is arguable now. I like the consistent ogre damage as a backup ogre DPSer. Okay, so moving on, Hagbane to me mandatory haste scavenger and ammo. I think all three of these are so good because ammo brings you over double proc, 2 ammo per proc. Haste is now 5 seconds, which is insane. And scavenger is scavenger, right? So yes, you could run other things, and it's not going to matter nearly as much. It's not going to matter nearly as much if you're not solo. If you switch one of those up for a DPS trait, or for an HP trait, you can make Hagbane do other things. I still think Hagbane is pretty decent for pubs and groups and such, but I don't think it's that great under any normal condition.
Yeah, the main thing of dots is that the thing is not actually dead, even though it will die. And
correct.
People will hit it.
Somebody else is going to hit it.
Wasted.
Yes, or they're going to get hit by it because they're going to wait for it to die.
Yeah.
So I think dots are extremely hard to use well in a pub setting. I think friendly fire annoys people. I have a hard time recommending Hagbane for pub play, and I have a hard time recommending it for an ordinary group play. So Death Wish, even for Onslaught. I have a hard time, but for True Fight,
it's kind of the thing where I tried to bring Gunflag to Onslaught, and I'm like, I don't know. And then I bring Bolt Staff to Onslaught, and I do so much better. It's like, what's the point of Gunflag if I'm not doing that great, even in situations that should favor it so much? Like,
well, I think Conflag.
I eventually tried to bring Bolt Staff over Conflag, even to Summoner's Speak, not Onslaught in that case, just normal character Summoner's Speak. I did end up figuring that Conflag would have probably done slightly better, but yeah, I don't know.
It has to do with how your party plays.
Yeah.
To get a lot of value out of Hagbane, an AoE weapon, and a lot of value out of Conflag, your party needs to play in such a way that enemies stack up. And that is not how ordinary groups play most of the time. They play skirmish. You play skirmish.
It's kind of the one exception.
Well, because of drop sounds.
Because you can spawn kill the portals where they're all stacked up dropping in.
Right. Because of scripted events. Okay, so anyways, Hagbane remains to me unchanged. It's a possible pick for ordinary play. It's not. I wouldn't recommend it to the average ordinary player. Swiftbow is hilarious. With even 2 ammo traits,
obviously.
With 1 ammo trait being Scavenger. Scavenger is the only mandatory trait in my opinion. And
ammo holder, Scavenger together is complete overkill on that red one.
And if yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends on how you're going to use it. I've used anything from the red one with all 3 traits. I've used one with 1 trait.
If your accuracy is like 20%.
Well, here's what you need. Here's what you need to think about. If you pull full Legolas mode with Swiftbow, it's very significant recoil. So one of the traits I've been experimenting with was Targeteer over the 3rd one. So that allows you to do the following. You need to double tap a clan rat, right? Without Targeteer, you have to do attack, attack. Whereas with Targeteer, even at significant range, you could do this. Listen. And that'll double tap. So if you bring ammo, Scavenger, Targeteer, it's a pretty good pace tool. It's a pretty good anti-horde tool, blah, 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 blah. So it's got meme potentials. But it remains an utterly inflexible weapon. And with only 5 damage on a headshot with right-click, it's extremely bad versus Gunner now. I mean, it was already bad versus Storm Vermin, but that mattered less. So, to me, it's fine for pubs because other people will bring other things. And it's fine as a troll, like a troll weapon or a mod weapon, meme weapon, yada, yada, yada. But nothing that they've done here matters. So what are the changes? Let me talk about the changes briefly. I'm reading them.
Yeah, it's not the most competitive weapon.
Increase penetration from 1 to 2. So what does that mean? It means it's even better against hordes if you can linearize the fight. Okay. Shrug. You get a big shrug from me, and it doesn't make that much of a difference for pace.
It's not that much of a competitive weapon, but not every weapon needs to be competitive. In the case of the Swiftbow, like, it's still got its place as a fun weapon.
Yep, for sure.
I'm gonna make a weird comparison here, but if we Hearthstone, for example, Hearthstone has a lot of decks that can only so many decks are considered competitive and will actually like pull those win percentages that are above 50% and whatnot. But those are not the only decks that people will enjoy, because people will try to pull off those ridiculous combos that are not practical but are hilarious when you pull them off, and that's fine. Like those decks need to exist as well, because not everybody is playing the game just to be extremely competitive.
Okay, so let's go even further with analogy.
It's the same case
then.
in the Swiftbow.
Do you know the terminology from Magic the Gathering? Mark Rosewater and the MTG dev team developed this a long time ago. It's called Johnny, Timmy, and Spike. Spike is a player like you and me who play to destroy things mostly, right? Like we want to min-max, optimize, win. Johnny is a player who does like to win for sure, but he likes to win his way, right? He likes to do the cool stuff no one else is doing and be creative and come up with new things. And then there's Timmy. Timmy likes big things and cool things and things that are... It's just like whatever makes him say, wow, damn, that's cool. So like big creatures, for example, in MTG is considered a Timmy creature usually. And then sometimes you get crossover appeal. I feel like Vermintide is a lot that way, right? You got your memers who really like to use their off meta shit and make it work, and like that's their identity. Like Die Already, with his blunderbuss, and Curiel with the two-handed hammer and stuff like that. Like they're really like, this is my jam and I'm making it work, and everyone else thinks it's shit. Then you got players that just play for fun, whatever the fuck happens, and then you got your min-maxers. So I think this weapon has a place in the arsenal of... Now that we have terminology, we can use it, right? So I think this has place for someone who wants to be a Johnny. It has a place for someone who wants to be a Timmy. I don't think it has a tremendous place for someone who wants to be a Spike unless they're trying to do a self-handicap run for challenge. Okay. By the way...
One quick break here. I have been told that Fat Shark has subscribed to your channel.
Oh, hey.
You should read your chat.
Please study. The DLC will be there when the finals are... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, so Fat Shark Games is here. Hey, guys, what's up? So who actually is on the Fat Shark Games tag over on the Fat Shark team? We'll see if we get an answer to it. All right, we'll keep talking while they answer. Okay, so I've babbled too much about Elf because I could babble about Elf balance all day. Just as a quick aside, the red bows, don't worry about it. Melee weapons, balance really really unchanged. I really like daggers lately as an awesome tool for specific challenges, as a push tool, because it's got that half cost push. And when you couple that with improved pommel, it's like almost 1/8 cost push.
Yeah, I've seen you go push crazy in some of those Rampart runs where you tried to carry other people
and it's absurd.
Speedrunning it.
It's like linebacker mode, right? And with the buff to normal damage, you can learn how to headshot with them pretty consistently, and the buff to charge attack, armor damage to 11 damage, which is hittable. It's not the easiest thing in the world to hit, but it's easy hittable. It has enough to it that you can do some like pace with it, so it couples really well Tagbane. So if you wanted to be a Johnny, right, and be really good at something that's off meta but brings a lot of really cool power if you play it well, dual daggers, a push dagger setup with Tagbane is really cool. Okay, sword dagger remains amazing, especially the red one in particular, even with the nerf to KB. But the big problem with sword dagger is it's got 5% regrowth. Unless you read the red one, so you can't play Regrowth Scavenger, and Scavenger is just so fucking good right now. It's a little blown out by one-handed sword, which allows you to do 10% regrowth melee Scavenger X, and 10% regrowth is insane. Melee Scavenger is insane, and whatever you put in the third trait, it almost doesn't matter. So one-handed sword remains top of the pops for most use, and I think Glaive is severely underestimated for challenge mods that have a lot of armor. Pairs well with Tagbane, and pairs well without Tagbane if you know how to wall scoop. And I think that's all I need to talk about with Elf. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything.
Glaive has been my go-to for mutation. It's like when I play Elf on mutation, since it one-shots the Storm Vermins with the second charge attack, and you can purposely miss the first one. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
You just charge in.
Yes.
Overhead the Storm Vermin for sweet, sweet irony.
And how good is it to do 32 damage to a Storm Vermin on Death Wish? 50 HP Storm Vermin. Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think Glaive is a criminally underused weapon. It's really good. It was, by the way, always good against Hordes. It turns out we just sucked. So when we went back and did the 1.43 challenge, you remember this, of course? As part of that challenge, I played Glaive's True Solo for a while, just melee only, too, and it was insanely easy.
And the 143 is where it was OP as hell and one-shotting Kato, right?
Right, so. But everyone thought it was OP as a pace weapon, but thought it was that the drawback is that you died versus Hordes, and it turns out we just sucked.
I mean, slightly, but yeah.
That was the Yeah, it's overcomable with good play, which is cool. So it's got a lot of cool options. It's just a cool weapon. It's probably the elf's coolest weapon, other than maybe longbow. Okay, so, and summarizing, I'd really love longbow to lose that little awkwardness at the end of firing. When it goes like this. Okay, moving on. What do you want to talk about next? You want to talk about your salty?
There's the repeater handgun too. The traits combos for repeater handgun now that haste is taken out.
Good.
I've been giving a lot of thought to that.
Good. You talk about it.
Let me actually take out Trooper here. So yeah, haste is
Hedge.
Not completely useless, but it's mostly taken out of the pool of the best traits with weapons, since it has so many traits that are useful on it. Like you could have a repeater handgun that has 6 traits, and there would still be questions as to what traits do I skip on that, because there are that many traits that are useful for a repeater handgun, but you only have 3. So yeah, now obviously the Rupture Haste Scavenger that everybody knows and love for patch 1.9 is not quite as good anymore because, well, you're not gonna Dagger that much with that haste, and only 8 bullets. So what I've been using most recently is this one here, after much thought given into it, which is Rupture. Still, I think Rupture is the most mandatory trait for repeater handgun overall, and it still is after haste, because it's one of the traits that gives permanent, like, not a proc chance of it always makes every single bullet have more potential.
Yes.
Like the max potential of a bullet is permanently higher when you have Rupture. No other trait does that. Doom does it on a proc chance. Rupture is always there.
One default pen with Rupture, 3 pens, 4 targets. Or is it the other way around?
Without Rupture, it's 2, and with Rupture, it's 4.
Okay,
it's
so
quite significant. It's
4
double damage basically if you're penetrating all the targets.
4 pens, 5 targets, or 3 pens, 4 targets with Rupture.
You're hitting 2 targets total without Rupture, and you're hitting 4 targets total with Rupture.
Okay, good, excellent. So it's like double damage in similar circumstances. Go. Okay.
In cases where you actually have all the targets to hit, obviously.
Good. So you strongly made the case for Rupture, and I buy that. Continue.
Yes. So after that. Before the haste nerf, you'd take haste because haste and daka. And because of haste, you wouldn't really need extra capacity because you'd just proc haste and get that many bullets anyway. And the 8 bullets you had in your clip were just a means of proccing haste. That's not the case anymore. You don't have haste to just keep shooting. So extra capacity becomes quite a bit more important now as a mean of being able to kill more than 1 target per reload. Because Storm Vermins will take minimum of 5 bullets. Specials will take a minimum of 3 bullets, not counting headshots there. The headshots with the repeater handgun are not very reliable. So yes, most specials will be 3 targets besides the Packmaster. And yeah, the Ogre is just, you're gonna unload your entire clip on it. So extra capacity makes it so you can kill 2 Storm Vermins with a single reload if your accuracy is good, like without them being stacked onto one another.
For sure.
Different Storm Vermins that are not near each other, basically.
So talk about Mastercrafted, because I'm sure that's the one that's most surprising.
Mastercrafted attack speed, not reload speed, because the repeater handgun has both Mastercrafted available to it. I'm going with attack speed, which it basically makes the repeater handgun, like you won't be doing this on most targets anymore with the Mastercrafted. You'll be ticking them like this, because Mastercrafted attack speed makes it so that the left click becomes much more reliable to kill targets that need 3 or 4 bullets quickly. Like, I'll walk up to a storm vermin and actually like put 5 bullets like this into a storm vermin as I walk towards it, instead of like trying to minigun it like that.
So let's be clear.
It's much more accurate.
Let's be a little analytical about this. So the nerf to haste is essentially a nerf to ammo, a huge nerf to ammo. But rather than try to make that up with an ammo trait on range, you're trying to make that up with rupture and with extra accuracy, right, from just tapping with left click.
Yes.
So you're trying to get more per bullet efficiency.
Yes, I'll get to that here. So ammo is going to be a pretty big deal with the setup, obviously. Like, I have melee scavenger, and I heavily recommend having melee scavenger with setup, because you will run out of ammo hardcore if you don't have any ammo return, which that set of trait on the repeater handgun does not have any ammo return. It's... So Mastercrafted is... I've tried Targeteer quite a lot as well, and I ended up skipping Targeteer for extra capacity instead. Like, I tried with Mastercrafted Targeteer, because the thing is, Targeteer makes you able to stay somewhat accurate when minigunning like this. Because when you're minigunning without Targeteer and while moving around, you start losing quite a bit of accuracy, and you're not gonna hit, like, a storm vermin that's like, say I'm here, I'm not gonna hit all the bullets on the storm vermin I'm minigunning like this at that distance. But if I'm just left-clicking 1 bullet at a time, it's already very accurate, even without Targeteer.
Right.
And that's the thing. With Mastercrafted, you can reliably have the time to go and left-click things like this while moving around, without it like taking too long, as it would without Mastercrafted. Like, if I take one without Mastercrafted here, it's so long to put 5 bullets into something.
Yeah, you can hear it. It's so different.
Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've made it like here from... So I'll do it again. Starting from here, where do I get moving around?
Interesting.
So I made it here, putting 5 bullets into you without Mastercrafted. Let's put Mastercrafted on.
So you lose the insane machine gunning potential of haste and the insane insta-ogre kill of haste. But what you've picked up with this build is it seems like you have a lot more flexibility and pace.
So yeah, I'm turning the repeater handgun into what I wanted it to be before haste. Like, I like the repeater handgun as a means of putting, like, putting exactly the amount of damage you need into things accurately.
Right.
And quickly.
Right.
Without overkilling things.
So like a battle rifle. But you want it to be the battle rifle to the
yes,
to the handgun sniper.
That is a very good comparison, the Halo battle rifle.
And now it kind of is.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like, before that, like, I wanted to do that with it, but then I looked at haste, and that thing is so ridiculous.
It was too broken not to use.
Yeah, that's exactly that. It was so broken not to use. Like, I can do my battle rifle thing all I want. It's haste just outperforms that so much. It's useless.
Okay.
So I would just go with the meta, because the meta was so much more overpowering.
So I can say I've seen Grim play with this setup in various contexts, and it's very effective. It definitely increases, like, Kruber can do a lot more as a single. Grim's not going to play something unless he can do a shit ton as himself. Like, by do a ton, I mean up there, killing things, murdering. And he can murder with this combo. So if you want to carry pubs by out there doing everything yourself for the most part, this combo enables that. Would you say it's pretty true?
Yeah, because basically like that, there's several things the repeater handgun will try to do. So it will try to destroy a line of things coming into a line, which very much can still do, and usually don't even need to minigun it, because 4 targets hit at a time.
Right.
Right. The slave rats still get one-shotted, so you can literally just kill them 4 at a time like this, and you're gonna do massive DPS regardless. Like, you're gonna kill them faster than they come most of the time.
Can we say that just about every trait ruptures on, except for a weapon ruptures on, with the exception of things like maybe handgun? It's very, very, very good.
Yes, because that's the same thing on all weapons. It increases the potential of each bullet without RNG.
Now, compared it to, like, and this weapon, it doubles it, right? But on, like, pistols, it triples damage.
Yes.
It's basically the best DPS target trait there is for most scenarios. So I think Rupture is a trait that actually is on the blocks for too powerful. It's just people don't know it yet. So when we have this discussion again in 2 months, there's going to be Rupture everywhere, if there isn't already.
So, all right, let me go with my roles here. One role you want to do is clear out a horde coming in the line. You want to clear out specials. You want to kill the special targets, which are both the Storm Vermins and the actual specials. You want to kill a Storm Vermin patrol coming at you, and you want to kill an Ogre. So those are some of the main roles that a repeater handgun will aim to do as a weapon that tries to do everything. So with haste pretty much just did all the things, you know? Like you go duck hunt to the thing and it dies, whatever what the thing is, you know? And it kind of didn't do the haste. One thing haste kind of fell back on was killing single important targets specials. Because you wouldn't run target here with your haste. You wouldn't run extra capacity with your haste. You wouldn't run master crafted with your haste because they're exclusive.
It ended up being more like a super shotgun. Or a minigun than a DMR.
If haste doesn't proc on your single target, which it often won't because you're not even hitting the shots if you're not killing it, and you know you're basically killing it without traits if your haste is not proccing, which you're not doing it optimally. So that's where the haste kind of fell apart, but it didn't matter because of the insane firepower it brought against the troll and against Ogre. And against hordes, I guess, too, whenever there was actually requirement for haste there.
So let's wrap up Repeater real quick. So one more thing on Repeater I want to ask you. So Repeater, this is going to work. People who have the old haste setup, it's probably not so much so. But the thing with Repeater, it's not dead, but it's notoriously difficult to get specific trait combos. It has more trait combos than anything else in the fucking game, because for whatever reason it has both versions of Mastercrafted, blah, 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 blah. So my question to you is, what other things would you consider to be up there?
The map on the table will show you our current...
I know you try to min-max, right? And this is definitely a min-max.
I know the repeater handgun takes thousands upon thousands of tokens to get trait combos. I have very much experienced it. I've wasted several thousands getting all the trait combos I want with this thing.
Kill me now. Continue.
Yes. Like I said, Rupture is the most mandatory one, I think, by far. You can... Extra capacity is very strong. Mastercrafted, you can probably get away with not having. Targeteer is another good one that can do the same kind of role in a different way.
Okay.
Like if you roll Targeteer instead of Mastercrafted, you can try to minigun things instead.
Right. And I've seen people recommend that back in the day was right click, left click to quickly double tap something, and both bullets are almost exactly as accurate. So you might be able to get away with... so we're going to probably say that Rupture, extra capacity are 1 and 2, and there's a lot of flexibility in the third slot.
Extra capacity
and even capacity is flexible. So there might be a lot of ways.
Rupture is the most important. Like almost all of my repeater handguns have Rupture. I've tried without Rupture at some point, and I just get killed trying to minigun holds because they weren't dying. Because it doesn't matter if I'm doing more damage with I'd have a damage boon and then minigun hold, and it doesn't matter because doing 10 damage or 8 damage to the slave rest didn't change anything with them dying. It's just I was killing 2 at a time instead of 4 at a time because I didn't have Rupture.
Let's do the rest of Soldier quickly. So handgun changes, very big deal.
One last thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Haste is not completely dead. Don't disenchant your haste weapons with repeater handgun because haste has become an ammo trait. If you put haste with extra capacity now, you're gaining 12 bullets whenever it procs and you're reloading that.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna run last stand with a repeater handgun, you're probably gonna still want haste.
What about mutation?
Yes, mutation as well.
You probably still want the same old one, right?
Except maybe Watch, you know. But any other map that doesn't have ammo boxes out the ass, you'll want haste probably.
Okay, so let's talk handgun for just a moment. I think I've played a hell of a lot of the handgun on beta, and it feels really, really good now. Specifically, the changes. Where is it? Reduced reload speed from 2.5 seconds to 2, and you now do 36 damage to resistant targets, aka one-shot packmasters.
Yes.
It's returned to its role as a very, very good special killer that doesn't make it feel like every time you take a shot you're out of the entire fight. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. I loved handgun before. I think it's back with a vengeance. So if you like playing that kind of weapon, go for it. It's got a great role. And also with the ammo, I was going to say with the ammo nerf to True Flight and the armor damage to True Flight, there actually can be space for True Flight and handgun on the same team now. Go ahead.
It's kind of funny how it still doesn't get the body shot all full specials. because the gunners got buffed. So
Yeah.
it's still 3 out of 4. But yeah,
True.
it finally gets back to Vesters.
Okay, what else? Blunderbuss is a meme weapon. It's been a meme weapon. It remains a meme weapon. I did a couple runs with it the other day.
For everything except maybe killing Crunch, I guess.
Yeah. So it's got these weird rolls with the shotgun strength potion. So one of the things about bringing Blunderbuss is if you're playing with a party that's going to know to conserve the strength potion, and you're playing something that you're likely to have mass armor in, it's got a kind of an interesting way of killing mass armor. Though I think the Grudge is just going to do it much faster. It also has really significant ammo efficiency.
I've seen some people run Blunderbuss and compete with me in kills, which is
Sure,
hard to do.
of course. Of course, you can murder pace, but the thing is, every time you fire it, you're going to pull almost as much as you kill.
Yeah, there is that. Like it aggroes everything.
So I don't actually. There are times you want to pull.
You can group things up.
But I think as a pace weapon, it's kind of it's a mirage, right? It looks like a pace tool, but it really isn't most of the time. So I think it's a meme weapon. I think it's got some off-meta reasons to run it, and I think you could make it work. I thought it worked really well with two-handed hammer for control to give you space to get the reloads off, and as a way of killing armor, which it's notoriously bad at. It's pretty good at everything at that point. So I did a run like that. If you're interested in the weapon, Dai already also did a guide on it, which would be good for you. But again, it's a meme. It's a meme level.
You'd be surprised how it can still do armored DPS whenever it doesn't have strength.
Point blank 4 or 5.
Like there's 2 different kinds of armored DPS. There's the armored DPS against the single targets, like the gunners and the single stormvermin standing there. And then there's the armored DPS against the trolls. And you'll notice that there are weapons that are very good at one, but very trash at the other.
Yep.
Like, say the bolt staff is very good at killing a single stormvermin, but put it against a patrol and it's not doing so good.
Yep.
and
Blunderbuss is not bad against mass armor.
Like
it's
the patrol,
shockingly.
Like the Blunderbuss can still do significant damage to a patrol via rupture and just throwing damage at all the stormvermins, and eventually they'll all start dying at the same time.
I personally think the mandatory
unless you have strength going, it's not very good.
Blunderbuss mandatory rupture mastercrafted scavenger, in my opinion. Though some people would probably tell you can get away with not running scavenger and run something else, like a heal trait and just heal like crazy.
Scavenger, you can probably get away
if
with
you have melee scavenger.
On the,
yeah, and
the itself.
The stock of one melee scavenger has gone through the roof since 1.9, no question.
Yeah, that's one of the things with melee scavenger. Not certain heroes have an easier time running it than others because of that 10% regrowth being available on their weapons.
It's like a perfect segue to melee, but just one more second on handgun. Mastercrafted to me is the only mandatory, in my opinion, for handgun. Everything else is depending on what you want to do. All right, go ahead.
The Kruber has a really easy time running scavenger melee because he's got it on one-handed sword, he's got it on one-handed mace, and those are the 2 main weapons that are very good. You can even run it on an executioner sword if you so want.
Especially if you have the red one.
Because it's got 10% regrowth as well.
Especially with the red one.
Wait, red one's got
regrowth?
On it.
Oh, scavenger. Oh, 10% regrowth. Yeah. You definitely can get away with regrowth, scavenger, melee, stamina trait on X sword. True.
Yeah, that's the thing. Not all heroes have access to that combo because you need 10% regrowth on that weapon with the ability to run scavenger with it.
Yep. And 10%.
Like Kruber's got 2 very good weapons, like 3 even with the executioner sword that have that combo. So you have a lot of it's really easy to get a weapon that does that have regrowth scavenger on it.
So
Elf has some access to it via the one-hand sword and via that's pretty much it. That's the one-hand sword is the one thing that really has like scavenger on melee that doesn't sacrifice much else because like if you run it on dual swords you're running 5% regrowth or no healing at all.
So regrowth KB is something I've recommended for a long time on one-handed sword. I've played the shit out of it. I actually think this patch for a lot of setups, the regrowth scavenger stamina trait has finally taken over. As long as you're running handgun or repeater, which both are excellent against single target armor. So like what Grim's running right now might actually be top of the pops for me for soldier. It's got fantastic horde clear. It's okay single target DPS against armor if you can headshot. It's solid. Low medium, like 30th 40th percentile, maybe a little higher against ogre, right? So it's pretty decent against everything. And
going back against my role, on my roles that I noticed that I set for the repeater handgun. Against hordes, like, the haste was absolute overkill. You'll still have more than enough to kill a horde that's coming at you in a line.
Sure.
With those 12 bullets, if you're not shooting them like an idiot. Against mass storm vermins, that's where extra capacity also comes into play, and rupture more than any other. With 12 bullets and probably 1 or 2 clips, you can still delete a patrol even without strength.
Yep.
Never mind with strength.
Yep.
With 12 bullets.
Yep.
It
and
is enough.
Much better, of course.
With Master Crafted, you don't need as much of an opening to unload all those bullets into the storm vermins. Like, you can unload all 12 bullets before they start spreading out much more easily with the Master Crafted.
Everyone hear that last bit? It seems that Master Crafted attack speed makes it so your weapon doesn't have as much time to get spread. That's not what you think would happen, because physically spread should be a product of how many bullets you fired, probably, not how long you've been firing. But maybe that's not true. It depends on what it's trying to model. But it seems like in this game, Master Crafted actually decreases spread to an effect. Go ahead.
Against single target, having Master Crafted again makes the weapon like so much better against single important targets like single storm vermins or specials.
Right.
Because you can like left click them a lot faster.
Okay, I think the case has strongly been made for this setup as an extremely flexible, very powerful pub setup.
And against Ogre, which is the last one, you may want strength. It is going to be the weak one. Like the loss of haste, there's no question. There's no haste. This means you can't just delete ogres left and right anymore. Like there's no trait setup really that will help the repeater handgun kill ogres much better than this one, because like what else are you gonna bring to kill an ogre better? Like Hail of Doom. It's like Hail of Doom is such a waste against everything else most of the time, and yeah.
Yeah,
you basically have to aim for full headshot, I think, is what you really need against an ogre at this point.
And I think Hail of Doom underperforms for this weapon, for repeater. I think Hail of Doom underperforms versus most of the other traits. In ammo trades...
Hail of Doom and Skullcracker would technically be useful, but they're outclassed. They are so outclassed.
So let's talk about the rest of the melee. I've always liked Sword over Mace, just because it has a significantly less move speed slow. But with the nerf to KB... you can make a case for it if it's your preference. I think they're both fine. And there's probably not much else to say about that. Let's talk about the 3... I'm not going to even talk about shields, because I think they're a joke. I don't care. Two-handed weapons, I think, actually have a place.
Rest in peace, shields.
I do. I think they're a meme. I think they're a meme, and I personally find them boring because they're slow. I'm sure... I'll offend someone, but I don't understand why they're both slow and they have less DPS than their one-handed counterparts. Like, that needs to change balance-wise. Being slow is so criminal. Like, can you imagine, like Barden with his axe shield, and the axe is not only do you have that big freaking thing you have to lug around, which hardly matters most of the time, but when you do go swing your left attack, it's actually worse than normal axe. Like, okay. Go ahead.
And yeah, it's pure control for sacrificing most of everything else.
I think if you're a new player and you're running shield, take it, put it away, and burn it with fire, because it's only going to teach you to be bad at this game. It's going to retard your learning, because every time things get hard, it's really hard to play well with and contribute at the same time with a shield. So you're just going to huddle up behind your shield, and when you're huddling up behind your shield, you're not learning. So go melt your shields. Okay, rant over. X-Sword, two-handed hammer, two-handed sword. I did a pretty comprehensive review of this when I did the beta 2 analysis and suggestion for beta 3. They didn't do a beta 3. I think it would have been a great idea, but okay, doesn't matter. Okay, let's talk X-Sword first. X-Sword is pretty damn good at everything. It has the one weakness that two-handeds always have, which is mobility, right? And its other weakness is it doesn't have as much push control as other weapons. I mean, you can build it that way, but I don't recommend it. It has 10% regrowth on normal swings. The swings are pretty darn fast, and you can run whatever you want with it. You could run Scavenger and some stamina trait.
The one thing you can't run with 10% regrowth is Swift Slaying, which is also a pretty powerful trait for it.
Yes, it damn well is. I love it. That was my first love with that weapon, was Swift Slaying. Bloodlust, and then whatever the hell you want, like Second Wind, and it's great.
Yes.
After learning to play with it even more, I now know for sure that even when you have mixed Clan Rat Storm Vermin, Swift Slaying is not necessary to be safe, but it sure is nice. The red one's nice, but not necessary. KB's stock is way down for the reasons we discussed earlier. Random Storm Vermin procs are out, so the red one's way down for that reason. So you don't have to farm for it anymore. Two-Handed Hammer, I think, is a really cool tool because it has the one thing that shields have going for it, which is massive push radius. I think if you're bringing Two-Handed Hammer, you have to bring it with the Bully build. The Bully build is Improved Pommel and DB. They have Improved Pommel DB is very, very strong if their weapon has anything naturally that augments its push. So strong push, good radius, or the dual daggers half cost push. And Two-Handed Hammer fits the bill. It's got those big, big pushes. That big radius, you'll be surprised. So I think there's a huge case for bringing Two-Handed Hammer plus something with your party, whether it be Repeater or Handgun. But I think it synergizes best with Handgun because it's hard to fit Scavenger with it. So I think this build right here, Improved Pommel, Bloodlust, DB, and Handgun, is a solid contribution to a party. And I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to get those headshots, but when you do it, you have to use the quick switch, QQ after fire. It's essential. You might even want to bind it to something. I never did, but only because I'm out of keys. Okay, let's talk about Two-Handed Sword. Two-Handed Sword is in a horrible place, in my opinion. It's fine. You're going to be fine in any party because you're not going to die to hordes, but you're not going to do armor damage, and you're not going to do resistant damage, and it has... First of all, every two-handed weapon comes with the cardinal sin already against it of being slow. In my opinion, it needs to be excellent at two things and good at the third thing. And by things, I mean like armor, ogre, or horde, to compensate for the fact that it's already pretty bad against clutch scenarios. And two-handed sword doesn't fit it.
I had two setups that I tried. Like I tried to... I still am ongoing trying to always roll all the best combinations for every weapon, regardless of or not that weapon is good by itself.
Sure.
And the two-handed sword, the two combos I came up with when theory crafting with it is, well, this, and the other one being the usual...
Regrowth, Scavenger.
Regrowth.
Probably Devastating Blow. Or
Scavenger, Killing Blow.
No, I think the regrowth KB is down. I think it's way down.
That's the thing. Like the trick combos I came up with is either this with Swift Slaying and Bloodlust and Second Wind, or the usual Regrowth KB. And now with the patch, Regrowth KB kind of dies.
It's
because it doesn't help the sword much. It already has like so much killing power against things you hit.
The KB was there because its armor DPS is so bad that fishing for procs was more efficient than trying to kill it with your headshots, even if you were good at headshoting. That's what it was there for.
Normal attack headshots with the two-hand sword, another thing, because you're doing 1 damage. That's one headshot. You're doing 1 damage with those headshots. It's worthless.
It might be like literally 25 seconds or 20 seconds or something to kill a Storm Vermin.
Well, I mean, you have to do it with charge attacks. Is what you have to do. But
yeah.
It's like, why?
So I think a regrowth Scavenger, whatever you want, with the repeater is fine. It's just it's going to be strictly worse than what Grim's wearing right now. And a Bloodlust-based build means you have to give up Scavenger, which means you have to run Handgun, which means, in my opinion, you have to run Devastating Blow. So the setup he has right now, minus Second Wind plus DB plus Handgun, is okay, but it's got very little clutch potential. I would stay away from it unless you're a memer. And you're a memer, you're going to meme.
The one place where you can kind of bring it is if you have a damage boon, because then it becomes 5 damage instead of 4, and that's pretty important.
Sure.
But weapons shouldn't have to rely on the damage boon to be viable.
Sure.
It's just stopped working.
I've made multiple suggestions of how they could take the weapon. Let's not dilute the... I mean, the stream's already going to be way too fucking long, so let's just move on. Want to talk about Barden?
Sure. Barden, like I said before earlier here, that the 2 weapons I considered viable for him were the...
Can I grab him so I can show off while we're doing it on stream?
Yeah, sure. I'll let you have it. Yeah, the main weapon viable for him was the one-hand hammer, and he's gained another one now in pick, since the pick has gotten quite a bit better.
And interesting. So I think you and I disagree, but okay, continue.
Well, the pick
also the red one has still the potential to killing those storm vermins.
Correct.
which
So
is
when we
the
say
other part
pick,
that
we
makes
mean
it-
red pick, period.
Yes.
And only
Well,
one of
not
them.
necessarily, because other picks can still have killing blow with
Yeah,
regrowth.
yeah.
And it has a 10% regrowth.
But it's the swift slaying with it that makes it good.
Yeah. But it's not a good solo weapon. It's definitely not a good solo weapon because
yes.
you're not good at cleaning up. You're good at creating like control while
Yes.
moving around
Yes.
and while doing also DPS, but you're
Yes.
not good at cleaning up every single last Skaven. So you're not good for solo. But
and
in
it's
a team
got
play
no
where there
pace.
are other teammates swinging around and doing those extra 2 damage you're not doing to those targets. It
So
works.
it works with the swift slaying, so you can actually kind of stick with the team. With the team. It is not the ogre DPS is actually also pretty laughable. It's, I believe, 36 damage per rotation. So
I tried doing it. Like the best way to go at it is charge attack, not the full one, just a quick charge attack on it. You
On
can try
ogre.
to be
Yeah.
cute and do a full one
no,
whenever
it's
he
too
misses
dangerous.
a slap.
I
but it's
agree,
pretty
absolutely agree.
dangerous.
So I did a bunch of solo runs with it, and its lack of efficiency at cleanup and pace comes to bear. I think for that reason it pairs pretty well with crossbow, especially an ammo-oriented crossbow build. So you have something to bring to bear pace-wise. So anyways, I think you could definitely bring it with parties. It has some control elements to it. You could get away with it. What are we talking about, by the way? What was changed? And for those who aren't in the know, it's increased
It's the attack speed.
attack speed. I think it was like 20% or something like that.
Yeah, the attack speed of the normal attack is gotten up, which it needed it. It definitely needed it, and that might be something like what the two-handed sword needed as well. But like now the pick's getting it, so the pick gets it before the two-handed sword.
Well, actually, I think the two-handed sword needs the pick's overhand attack. So here's the funny thing. Pick has both good armor damage and control on the light attack. And it's actually not that hard to hit the charge attack, even in a solo scenario, to one-tap a Storm Vermin. But the thing is, with the light attack being so good, doing armor damage and having KB, like, there's no reason for it. So it's kind of unfortunate that the charge attack's kind of cool. It's just it doesn't really have a
also
place.
made it so that the full charge attack is slightly faster. So
Yes.
You can
Yes.
You can get the 20 damage Storm Vermin destruction.
It's
with
not
it being
terribly
a
hard.
little less of a meme.
It's not terribly hard to do. Well, it's not terribly hard to do when there's not other people knocking around the Storm Vermin like crazy. So that might not be that true in real pub play. But anyways, I think pick us up. If it interests you, you can pick it up and give it a shot if you happen to drop the red one. Want to talk about Old Standard Bach real quick? Still amazing. Significantly nerfed for Ogre DPS and significantly nerfed.
People have been saying
Or for,
that they
Storm
don't feel the killing blow nerf as much when it comes to clan rats with the one-handed hammer. Like when it comes to Storm Vermins, obviously, but when it comes to clan rats, it
and hordes.
surprisingly might not be as bad as it looks on paper.
It's still quite good. It's still quite good. I think
Yeah,
this weapon is
it's
still
still
in an
quite
amazing
useful.
place, and it still has the absurd dwarf dodge.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So box still amazing, no question, and the one-handed, the orange equivalent still very good. Let's talk about axe, which is unchanged. So I think PBDB, the bully build, is okay with it. I was surprised how easy it was to headshot with, especially with the Saltzpyre version. I think one-handed axe actually has a place with Drakes. With
Yeah,
5-second
Drake's
haste.
5-second haste. which-
Yeah, okay, we'll talk haste then. Fine, talk about Drake's. 5-second haste, channeling regrowth. Like, the weapon is disgusting now.
If I may try to make a bit of an example here, you can proc. Funny thing, you can proc haste on teammates in the end with the conflag, whatever reason. Can you come and stand here?
Sure.
If I start and do it up here to proc haste on you, maybe I'll get it soon enough. Eventually. Ah, there it is. So here, the amount of circles I can do before it runs out here. And it's out.
See that table?
It's very
That's
significant.
That is quite a few circles that you can put on whenever you proc haste.
So what people probably aren't thinking about with Barden and with Conflag is that yes, it's a great tool. It means you have a lot more control when and it's going to proc and yada yada. And between that and channeling, you can vent pretty cheaply and quickly, so you can keep up a lot of control. Okay, great. What it also means is you have a lot more mobility while casting, because as soon as it procs, you don't have to worry about venting for a while, right? That's 5 seconds of free mobility while casting.
Basically, that's what happened. Like when I first tried haste, when it first became thing at 1.9, and I tried it last time, like I would not wait for the haste proc itself. I would assume it would happen when I put a circle under like 3 or 4 things of haste.
Yeah.
More. So like that's the thing. You just don't care about your venting anymore when you got haste. You just go crazy at it and then vent just as crazily, because your Greek row is going to keep you up when you're doing that many circles and hitting that many things between every event.
Quick note for Drakes, right click into left click, and to letting go of right click, and then right clicking again into left click. So this is considerably faster than right click, left click. It's called the finger roll, and it works for 2 weapons, Drakes and Hagbane. Learn that technique if you want to use Drakes. Alright, moving on. Drakes way up with 5-second haste, and last patch 2, like between the 2 of them. But still suffers from the very extremely old, really, really stupid bug where it prioritizes far targets instead of near targets. So we could do a whole video about how to like play around that, but let's not do that now. Handgun, already discussed. Crossbow, not much to say, but please talk about it for me.
It's still the weapon that it is. I've used it. It's the main weapon I use on Saltzpyre, and it's exactly the same weapon on the Dwarf. It still one-shot Storm Vermins on a headshot without Hawkeye, and...
Hawkeye down. Hawkeye down a lot.
Yeah, Hawkeye on the crossbow was only, unless you're playing on Death Wish or whatever, Hawkeye on the crossbow was a mean of Ogre DPS. And now that Hawkeye doesn't give you nearly as much, Hail of Doom is probably the better alternative, because you technically get like about the same amount of Ogre DPS if you do the math on it, even though it's RNG and the Hail of Doom is not on Hawkeye.
So HOD Mastercrafted X, probably the best.
Hail of Doom also gives you that extra like DPS of potentially killing the Globadiers or Assassins, and extra DPS on armor whenever you don't hit the headshot.
So what I don't think a lot of people appreciate is how good of a pace tool crossbow is. It's really, once you get good with mouse aim, it's really not that hard to run around. And as long as you're going forward or not hitting any directional keys, you have perfect aim. So you can jump, let go of directional keys, aim to the side, and hit whatever you want to hit. So let's say there was 4 players running crossbow, just running through the map, you would kill everything.
The crossbow is quite similar to the handgun with the skirmisher. They're the one that doesn't make you lose accuracy when moving around. It already has that built in, basically.
Yeah.
You can just move around, look at what you want to shoot, and you'll hit it, because it's accurate.
So...
And also, the crossbow doesn't run out of ammo. It just does not, unless you're like wasting your ammo on purpose during the entire map. It's not gonna run out of ammo.
So
you can be quite liberal with it. You can shoot it at clan rats. You can shoot it at whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not the true flight. You shoot the true flight at clan rats, you're dead out of ammo. Goodbye. But you shoot the crossbow at clan rats, you're fine. Yep. So you can afford to do that.
So it's another mid-range pace weapon, and unlike the pseudo pace weapons like Blunderbuss, it's silent. It's silent, so you don't pull. It actually is a real pace tool, unlike the shotguns. People bring shotguns as pace tools, but that's absolutely incorrect. In 9 times out of 10. Okay, Grudge Raker, Rupture, Scavenger, Extra Capacity. Of those 3, I think almost all are mandatory. Scavenger, debatable if you have melee scav. And we can say the same things all over again that we said for Blunderbuss, that it does a surprising amount of Storm Vermin DPS, and because of Rupture allows you to take out patrols, blah blah blah. Under Strength Potion, it annihilates mass armor, blah blah blah. Crunch meme strats, blah blah blah. And then maybe for like speed runs or something like that. I don't think there's really much else to say. Two-handed weapons, the only thing else to talk about is Great Axe. So Great Axe got what looks like on paper a buff. In my opinion, it is not a buff. Based on how I feel...
It is a buff, like it's not a nerf, it's definitely not a nerf.
No, it is a buff. It is a nerf, because it removed block canceling.
Well, no, you can still block cancel.
It doesn't improve anything. And
yeah, because
in order to
it's
achieve
becoming
this,
mandatory now.
to
right?
achieve the same amount of DPS with it, you do not have block up as often as you used to. You used to have the same pacing of strikes per second, but a more significant portion of the time you would have your block up, so it was safer to do.
Yeah. But what's stopping you to do that? Like, it's not slower if you do it with the blocking, is it?
What? But no, but you get the block up slower. So swing, hits, blocks up slower after than it was with block cancel, which was instant after it hit. Well, that's how it felt to me.
Oh,
I did not sit down and do a frame by frame. I mean, if I cared more, I would have.
Yeah. Can you give me the Dwarf for a second? I actually want to see this one for myself.
Well, you can't test it without something to hit.
Once again, you depend on me.
You can't block cancel unless you hit something. It's just like Glaive. You have to hit 2 targets to block cancel. You have to hit 1 target with Great Axe to block cancel. So I think it's something I worry about for Vermintide 2 a lot, is them removing all the little quirks that make the game kind of mechanically more challenging than it needs to be, which sequels often do. Like CS Source versus 1.6. They removed all the fun little random twerks, and it made the game kind of watered down. But anyways, I think it's a pseudo buff at best. In other words, it's a side buff that's somewhat less interesting than before mechanically. And if nothing else, at worst, it's a slight nerf. Otherwise, I think Great Axe has more than enough control to compete in any ordinary circumstances. It's got great single target DPS against everything. It's got decent horde clear. So I actually think Great Axe is a great option for two-handed play. And the slightly less stamina doesn't come up very often. It's very easy to run with a bully build. Perfect. Devastating Blow, Improve Pommel, Bloodlust. Did I nerf Grim? Or did I didn't nerf Grim? Did I nerf Grim? Did I mute Grim? Okay, so I don't really have much else to say about Barden. I feel like he's not really down at all and not really up at all. Pick isn't more of an option than it used to be.
I mean, you lost some on the one and a hammer, regained some on the pick, and the Drake fires.
Yeah. Drake's up, Bach down, pick up somewhat, but still below the meta. The Drakes still need to fix. Sienna or Grim? Do you want to talk Salts?
Saltzpyre hasn't been changed much.
I think the Falchion nerf means nothing. Am I right?
Yes, basically. The Falchion nerf is almost impossible to notice unless you're looking at things that don't exist. It feels placebo almost.
Oh, okay, good. This is a good moment to talk about attack range changes. Utter red herrings. Some of them said that they were done. They weren't done in the beta 2. I doubt it's been fixed, aka pick. And even if it were, it meant nothing. It's completely indistinguishable, even with a 20% nerf to Falchion, let alone the 2 or 5% buff to the two-handers that were buffed. So that's a total red herring. Utterly ignore that. Continue, Grim.
Look at me striking this wall right here. This is about my range with Falcon. That looks like exactly what it was before.
Yeah, it's pretty indistinguishable. Okay.
In third person, this is ridiculous range. It's
so
still the same.
Falchion still top by a mile, right?
Oh yeah.
So the problem with Rapier is it should be a lot better than it is, but with 5% regrowth and only 2 targets, it doesn't actually play as that much of a horde weapon. Whereas Falchion is insane against a horde.
Like the Rapier could have this role of being the one-handed sword of Saltzpyre.
Yep. What does it need? 3 targets. 3 targets and 7% regrowth. Targets,
having 10% regrowth and 7% swift slaying and things like that would help it gain a roll because the Falcon is locked at 5% regrowth and 4% swift slaying, etc. But right now, the Falcon has at any rate, Bloodlust is better for Falcon anyway. It has Backstabbery, which is insane on it, and
so. a lot of people don't get value.
Clan rats everywhere.
Yeah, it's got incredible pace. It's insane against hordes. It's got solid ogre DPS and solid storm vermin DPS and great mobility. It's slightly less stamina, but that doesn't matter. Slightly less mobility, but because second wind, and slightly less mobility doesn't matter because second wind, and to a lesser extent because of Seal the Swift Strider. Yeah. So like Falchion is the perfect melee weapon of Vermintide.
Because of how you move faster, like that meme I do like this, like to move 5% faster than people. Because it moves faster when you're striking, it can actually get away without without the move speed trinket. Because you don't need to dodge as much because you're still moving when you're not dodging.
So let's talk about that, because let's talk about what's special about Falchion and Sword Dagger that makes it feel so much better than every other weapon in Vermintide. Every other weapon has very considerable attack move speed slow you incur as a result of swinging your weapon. Falchion, on average, is plus move speed when it runs, when it's swinging.
Yeah,
and
so
Sword Dagger is neutral.
If I do this, I move faster than the normal move speed.
He's literally outpacing me. Look. Whereas if I start swinging, watch. So, they can play so aggressively and so safely at the time, they being Falchion and Sword Dagger, because of this particular quirk. I said if they wanted to nerf Falchion, what they needed to nerf was its move speed. Don't test the damage numbers, yada yada. Attack its move speed, and that would bring it down a lot. But they're never going to do it because their balance-facing guys right now are not very pub-facing and not, I don't think, very aware of what's going on at the top level. So here's the V2, hopefully. Maybe some public pressure. Like, maybe we'll do some complaint threads. I've been trying not to be a whiner. Because I understand that they have limited tools with Vermintide 1 and their resources are wrapped up in Vermintide 2. But that cannot be the excuse anymore in the spring. You agree?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Ooh, running low on space, that's no good. Let's delete this crap.
So also another thing, Saltzpyre is one of the heroes that really does not have access to scavenger melee. Because like all the options are 5% regrowth. Even the one-handed axe.
Wait. One stupid option. Two-handed sword.
Yes, the two-handed sword. But the two-handed sword is so ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like an option.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to play it with repeater pistol. That's a true solo, but it was a meme. It was no question a meme. All right, continue.
Thankfully, most of his weapons don't really need scavenger melee. Like, they don't need to be ammo efficient, because the crossbow doesn't run out of ammo. The crossbow doesn't care. The volley crossbow
has limited utility.
Could use it, but like, it's not a weapon you go around shooting everything with. You just want its ammo. Like, you just want to clip to unload into your.
Well, I want to tell you that you say that, but that's because I think you've utterly dismissed repeater pistol as an option because it utterly needs melee scavenger to fuel it.
No, I'll get on the repeater pistol. The volley crossbow wants its clip to unload on the ogre, and it has it. Like, you don't need an ammo trait to have a clip to unload on the ogre because you're not spending your ammo on everything else if you're playing properly. So yeah, what else? You know, the pistols could use them, but the pistols just feel bad for being worse repeater handgun.
Yep.
Because they do less damage.
Yep.
They don't stagger storm vermins, which is the other big thing they don't do.
You and I both agree that they need a couple number up tweaks and they'd be fine. Oh, and a sound volume nerf.
And the repeater pistol. One of the things with repeater pistol that really surprised me is that when we went back to 1.4.3, whatever, its shotgun accuracy was significantly better.
Yeah.
Like the spread of the shotgun was much lower. Like, you'd have a really small shotgun if you took Stoggedeer with it. And that made it able to shotgun storm vermins at a quite decent range. Like, I would be able to shotgun a storm vermin accurately at this range. Even with Stoggedeer on this patch, I'm gonna miss enough bullets for it to not die if I try to shotgun a storm vermin at this range here.
Would say to me when I played with it, Rupture, Targeteer, Extra Capacity with Melee Scavenger, aka you're forced to run two-handed hammer, sword, two-handed sword, or Rapier with a very suboptimal 5% regrowth. But if you did either of those, it felt pretty good. It was fun.
It's like, yeah, it's an okay weapon if you're like
okay with gimping yourself for fun.
Like, extra capacity is mandatory because you need that to be able to shotgun stormers.
Correct.
Shot, even if you have perfect. On top of having perfect accuracy, Rupture is pretty much mandatory because Rupture...
To get off the right click and to left click with it, felt very necessary to me to either do a perfect balance, devastating blow, shove, or to bait and pull back. The other thing that really annoyed me with it is, it's right click, left click, slight hesitation, then it fires.
Yeah, there's a lot of like you get punished extremely hard for missing. Like it gets so frustrating to just like shotgun a Stormvermin and see all the bullets go right next to it instead of hitting it.
So what would
just,
it need?
Blow,
what would
whatever.
it need to be a weapon that's kind of hard to use, etc., but has a reason to be used? What would have to be changed?
I think it would need like its old shotgun bags, like accurate shotgun. Like, yeah, you'd still get punished for missing that Stormvermin, but at least you'd be able, like, if you're accurate, you'd still be able to shotgun the Stormvermin's a decent range and.
So what? You want to remove the delay?
No, not, like just that shotgun that it had on patch 1.4.
Okay, so you want it with or without targeteer. With or without targeteer, you want decreased spread on right click.
Yeah, like it had that before. I don't know why it lost it. Like I don't even remember where was the patch note that lost it, but it kind of kills the weapon when the shotgun is not accurate.
Does it need one default penetration?
On left click, it's no penetrate. Like it's only one target on left click, and then on right click, it's 2 by default.
Yeah.
So it becomes 4 with rupture or 3.
Does it need one? Does it need one pen with left click, or does it need a free damage buff to resistant? I feel like it could go either way.
One thing that's interesting with it, and I'll maybe try it some, is that when I put this thing on a bot, the bot doesn't shotgun at all with it, obviously.
Yep.
But
it just left clicks a bajillion times.
The bot just goes like tick it down
yeah.
on the target
and it dies.
Absolutely dead accuracy.
Yes.
Like it,
yes.
it goes like this and hits every
yes.
single shot
yes.
in the head, which annihilates specials
so
in a funny way.
You can do it. It means you need to use mouse wheel or some other bind.
I don't think it needs mouse wheel to be able to like flick that fast. You don't need to do it at such a speed that like the bot does it. You won't be able to. You're a human. You know.
I guess. Well, I think didn't you play Minecraft? Were you a Minecraft player or something? Because I don't think everyone has your left click speed.
I have not played Minecraft much. Someone has made me try it for a while, but.
Oh, brief pause. Silver Fox, absolutely. Post it as a VOD. Love to share the link. And actually, if you think there's any particular topics that we should cover, this would be a good time to let us know. Okay. So, Repeater, interesting weapon. Needs a little something. It
has some. It is capable of killing specials. It also has like that small annoying kick. Like it kicks your aim up slightly when you fire.
Yeah.
Time. No matter how fast, like you can't get away with it by just firing faster.
Yeah, you have to control.
If I unload my entire clip, I actually have to do significant recoil control.
You gotta play it like you're playing 1.6, right? You gotta pull your spray down. So I think it's cool because it feels like it has a high skill cap. And honestly, if regrowth was a thing, if regrowth scavenger was a thing for Saltzpyre, I would probably run it if it had a slight buff to resistant damage, maybe 30%.
It already has enough resistant damage because you're doing as much damage. You left click, you don't right click the Packmaster.
I know. I'm not talking about Packmaster. I'm talking about as an ogre DPS.
Yes, I know, but you still left in the ogres. Like whenever
you know what? Maybe it wouldn't matter because
I just go like this on the ogre and try to hit all headshots. It's 24 damage per bullet. It's as much as the pistols. It does as much damage as the pistols per shot.
I know. I used it. You know what? Now that I think about it, when I was using it with two-handed sword. So maybe what I was really feeling was two-handed sword blue.
Yes.
But if you were actually using it with a real Saltzpyre weapon, it would be with rapier or falchion. Right, regrow scavenger, in which case your melee weapon would be just fine. So maybe, you know what? Maybe what all Saltzpyre really needs is melee trait fix. Which, oh my god, I don't even want to start talking about how much this game needs a melee trait percentage fix, because it's never going to happen. It's too hard on the back end. Let's just wait for Vermintide 2 and not get frustrated. So moving right along, Sienna, yes? I think the haste change to Sienna matters a little. I thought it was already a pretty big deal. Do you want me to talk about daggers for a minute? 'Cause I know we already talked about it. I did a big talk on the beta balance of this weapon. I like maybe a 30-minute video with accompanying text on Reddit, which I can link when I post this video on YouTube, because basically nothing has changed. This is a weapon that when you hear one-handed dagger for Sienna, you think to yourself, oh, sweet. Sienna's got so much AoE. It would be so cool to have like a melee pace and mobility weapon, right? Or even, maybe even, oh God forbid, a two-handed dagger clone for Sienna, which would be absurd. It would be so cool. This is not that weapon. This is not. So its gimmick is the charge attack, and it's balanced around the charge attack, in my opinion. That's what they did. The charge attack is basically a shield shield bash that also applies a dot. The dot does literally 1 damage to off targets and main targets, as far as I can tell. Literally one.
There's so many things wrong with the weapon right now.
It's a joke. Its
I think
attack
something
speed is slow. So I feel like it's almost not right? Like they couldn't have intended for the orange level.
To the glaive. If you have memory that far back, it happened to the glaive. I never actually even got to play the glaive on actual 1.3 release because I just didn't have it. But I was told that the glaive did really terrible damage on its first release because like the values were wrong, and then they fixed them to 10 damage on an armored, and then it became the most powerful weapon of the meta on that patch.
So it is totally possible that there's gonna
maybe they just messed something else. Like I don't know. Like it is laughably bad at the state that it's still it's still the same as it was on beta. I thought it was just unfinished. When I look at that, I spawned that on beta and I try to play it. I'm like, this is unusable. It's got to be unfinished. It's a beta, right? It's not even meant to be attained. It's still the same.
So it has the same dodge profile as one-handed sword. It has the same push profile, I believe, as one-handed sword, or worse. Right? It does have push stab, but without the push advantages of daggers or the massive damage of push stab with sword dagger, I don't see a purpose for it. The charge attack is just too slow. It's very awkward to try to get it in and weave it in, and switching from charge to light attacks, It does 6 damage to the head, 2 to the body, 6 to the head with normal light attacks.
That's a single target rapier.
It's a single target rapier, and rapier is already not that good. So I don't know what they're going to do with it. When the second I saw that the charge attack was an AoE, I was really scared for this weapon. And the reason is we already have Flame Sword. We already have Light Sword. Those two weapons are basically the same. They're mixed. They're middle range weapons, right? And you cannot have a single target weapon that has a better, amazing pace, right? So one target kills clan rats and has an amazing control option in charge attack. You just can't do that. The balance would be way out of whack. So it can't be good at either of those jobs. It can just be okay. Which means we already have that weapon. It's called One-Handed Sword. So I don't really know why. I would have loved the following. Tell me what you think about this. Take this charge attack, give it to Flame Sword. Flame Sword's charge attack now phases through targets, aka it's just a shield bash that applies a dot. Now Flame Sword is very distinct from Sword, and then make this weapon basically a double dagger clone.
No.
I would love those changes.
I have tried to give this that weapon the same damage on the normal attack as the dual daggers. That's like 3.5 and then 10.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Like trash.
Yeah.
Even if I one-shot the clan rats, it's like I don't know. It doesn't feel usable much. It serves the same role as the dual daggers, except that it can't destroy chains.
Yeah. But no, literally make it a dual dagger clone. So 10 point, it's got 10 damage normal charge attack. It's got half cost pushes. It's got elf level dodge. I know, but it would be really cool and really good. I feel like they were trying to design in a very crowded design space, and I don't know why. Why did you make it so it was another middle range weapon, right? I don't know. When Flame Sword is the thing that needed a unique identity. Anyways, I've already said all of this. Let's move on. I've played with charged attack Flame Sword in the beta. I played it, maybe 2-3 hours. It's still got way worse DPS versus hordes than light attack on normal sword. It's riskier, and it's got all that light pollution and sound pollution. In my opinion, Flame Sword charge attack meta has been dead for over a year now, and this does nothing to fix it. And by what I'm talking about, the change was the right thing to do. There's no question it was the right thing to do. It will not save the weapon whatsoever.
So one other random thought here. Can you go? Do you have a means to go into third person? Like well, I mean, you can just do it with X. The standing animation for this dagger reminds me of like the default animation when you're like looking at something in a creation kit that doesn't have any animations whatsoever. Just like the arms so away from the body. It's like, what is that?
Wait, shouldn't she start playing with it after a while, or not when you're holding X? Like if you just hold still for a while, don't they start playing with their weapons? I can't even remember. It's been so long. Anyways, okay, so I'm not quite sure. The weapon looks beautiful though, especially the red one.
Yeah, weapon looks cool and stuff, but it's worse than the dual daggers. It's worse than like everything else.
I don't know.
It needs something. It definitely needs a change.
Longsword Flame Sword has always had this issue where they're so similar. One is going to be considerably better than the other, probably. And Longsword still retains, in my opinion, it's king. It's king. Longsword is king.
That was actually like a really clever idea you had there, was to give like the little like pushing storm vermins around and dot thing to the flame sword charge attack. That would have given it an identity.
But then that does,
cool if you do that, it's like, what do you do with this one now?
I know.
You just relegated the issue to the dagger. It's like,
make it
dagger do you now?
Make it a push stick. Make it a push stick single target pace weapon with a lot of mobility. That would have so much, especially if they fixed beam staff and drakes to prioritize near targets. It would be so fun. It would be so mobile. It would have so much pace. It would be so high skill cap. I would love that shit.
You could do something crazy with it, I guess. Like you could still keep, like you could leave this dagger having that charge attack that it has currently on top of the giving the flame sword.
If they made it.
Let me finish. It is slightly less reliable on the dagger already with that whole like arcing you up thing. That you like it makes your aim awkward and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the second charge attack, you could do something crazy with the second charge attack, couldn't you? Like just make it like massive stab on the target it hits with like both single target damage and a dot.
Yeah.
And an explosion of fire or something that hits everything else as well and does everything else on top.
So the second weapon, it's single target, but it basically drops a fireball on the target.
Yes. Like you could do like make the second charge attack like be a really good combo you want to do.
Okay.
It's like make it so the second charge attack both deals extreme single target damage, like enough to one shot a clan rat or whatever, and makes a small explosion of fire that puts a dot on everything else.
But to be clear, it's kind of cool, but you're moving this weapon closer and closer to a mid-range weapon, right? Or even a heavy DP, a heavy AoE prep weapon, when Sienna already has two one-handed weapons that do that. We're already designing in exactly the same design space as two of her 3 melee weapons, and I don't know why we have to be designing there. So Ghoul, do it, but put that on Flame Sword. Give us something else.
No, you make the normal attack be like the same damage as the dual daggers, and it becomes like closer to single target on that as well. It's like, I don't know, it would be different enough that some people would prefer it in a way. Like it would feel different to use. Like the one-hand sword and the flame sword, like they share the same animation for the charge attack, and the normal attack pattern is quite similar.
Oh yeah, it's the same weapon.
So they feel like the same weapon. So of course, doesn't matter what your playstyle is. You're gonna. It is just a matter of which one's better.
Yeah.
But the playstyle would be different enough if you just put those changes on.
Yes.
There would actually it wouldn't overlap quite as much.
That is the argument I was expecting someone to make when I proposed these changes on the Reddit posts, and I was shocked no one did. Maybe it's because you were on break. That was the exact counter argument I was expecting, which is yes, it's in the same design space, but it plays differently, so therefore it's different. And yeah, I get where that's coming from, but I'd love a new option for Sienna. I'd love a pace. I'd love dual daggers on Sienna. That's it. That's what it comes down to. It would be a really, really cool way of playing Sienna. Anyways, it would be kind of a cool like middle ground as we wait for the more melee centric Sienna. Anyways, let's continue. Fireballs. I've always loved Fireball. It still suffers dramatically from its insanely large projectile for no flippin' reason that comes from your head. And it'll never be as good as it's supposed to be until they fix the clunkiness of it, which they won't.
It does get the buff to haste, I guess.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't matter.
Marginal.
Anytime you could you had the space and you were able to hit the shots to hit mass targets, it was already good enough. So it's a red herring. The haste buff is a red herring for Fireball. Still my favorite weapon conceptually. Like, it's just so cool. It's a goddamn shame. Moving on. I did a whole video on this if anyone's listening that's of interest. If you just look for my channel on Fireball, I did a big video explaining what the issue with it is. But the bottom line is the projectile comes from your head. So anytime you're in tight quarters, it's going to hit the wall above your head, explode, do nothing, and then you're going to die. Or when you go to shoot the projectile scales. The size of it scales with how long you've been charging, and it's very hard to hit around walls or any sort of complexity. So if you wanted to make it a precise weapon to hit this group of rats that are coming in right here, and you're right here, and you have this clean line of fire, nope, hits this wall instead, GG. Like, you have to play so bizarre, and you have to only shoot down nice flat quarters. It's like, I don't know. It's a weapon that should be a high skill cap, really interesting weapon, and it's not because of how clunky it is. Okay, moving on. Bolt Staff, Fireball. Again, Fireball's a meme. Conflag.
Bolt Staff is still as great as it is, but
yep.
I might be a little biased.
I think it's an insane pace tool, and it's extremely good with a nerf to True Flight against armor. It's much closer. It's much closer to True Flight. Agreed? Grim? Oh, that's Grim.
I just got distracted by someone posting in Discord that they're crashing with the QL fill.
No problem. So, Grim, you agree it's an insane pace tool?
Yes, the Bolt Staff was not nerfed while the True Flight was.
Yep.
So the Bolt Staff is probably going to gain some over the True Flight now.
I predicted...
It has a very high skill cap, and it's weird I don't see that many people playing it the same way I do. Just...
Right click, left click like crazy.
Shooting at everything. Yeah, shooting at everything that moves and getting as many headshots as possible, just maxing damage with it. It's the same way you played it before 1.5, basically, just in a balanced way.
Yep, you actually have to aim. So I expect to see a lot more Bolt Staff coming up. A lot more people playing Wizard for it. I think it couples extremely well with One-Handed Sword, because One-Handed Sword is just such a flexible, safe weapon against hordes. Okay, and unchanged other than that. Beam Staff, it really needs that fix. It needs that fix. It's very good, it just needs that fix. The Hawkeye nerf is considerable for its Ogre, because you still want it to one-shot clan rats, or storm vermin.
The Beam Staff is the one that loses the most with the Hawkeye nerf, because the Hawkeye increase made it like it was the highest percentage of its damage. Like the crossbow is 2.5 times the 4.5.
Sure. It was 2 to 4, wasn't it?
Yeah, like the Beam Staff is 2 to 4.
Right, so it's 3x to 5x, which is pretty considerable. Okay, so its Ogre DPS, if you don't bring it, is very much down. But surprisingly, its Ogre DPS is actually very, very high if you headshot, double headshot per rotation. It's very high skill cap. The timing of trying to right-click and to left-click is very precise. So if you're a Johnny, right, someone who likes to learn how to play something off the beaten track, but if you're really good at it, you can excel where others can't. I think Beam Staff is a tremendous opportunity to be a specialist, a Johnny specialist. It's got great clutch potential. It's good against everything. Blah 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 blah. You can run it a lot of ways. One of the things we've learned recently, because I always run Mastercraft off of it, is Mastercrafted actually improves right-click and to left-click pace as well, speed as well. So Mastercrafted is good, especially if you're going to do left-click spam. Hawkeye is good, especially if you're going to right-click ogres, right-click storm vermin. Channeling is fantastic. Regrowth is fantastic. So there's a lot of options, and it's not that hard to get what you want. That's one. Okay, let's talk about Conflag. To me, Conflag is not an AoE DPS tool. It is a super push stick.
Conflag gains a lot with the haste buff, just like the Drake Fires.
Yes. Because it means you can go right through shit.
And yeah, like, that is the thing with it. Like I've mentioned, I've tried to bring it to Onslaught and then just do decent with it, and then I bring the Bolt Staff and do so much better.
I think part of that's your style.
It is to an extent, obviously, but it's like I would try to just maximize my DPS and just didn't find that I'd get that much out of the Conflag in a group situation.
Well, actually, that was what I was going to say. Is as good as Conflag is, I don't actually think it's that good for normal play for the same reason I don't think Hagbane's that good for normal play. People need to play around AoE weapons to make them valuable.
The Conflag just disturbs those meleeing so much. So like I know I hate when I'm trying to Falcon headshot things and they're all flying around because they're getting
first. You heard it here first. If you're going to play Conflag and you're just walking through the map and there's a couple rats up and you're trying to make pace, if you're right-clicking, you're wrong. It makes it hard for your teammates. It's hard for them to tell what's alive. The DPS is junk. It slows you down. It's got a higher heat per damage dealt. Like, it's not the way to blow. Just left-click spam. Just left. It's not that hard, and you'll proc haste and you'll left-click spam all day. Left-click spam, it has no recoil, so you can do whatever you want while moving at full move speed. Left-click spam. It's a great pace tool. I think it's way underutilized. Conflag's in a great place. I think haste, regrowth, channeling is pretty mandatory.
To an extent, it's the same with the beam as well. Like people just try to gain damage by shotgunning things with the beam, and then it just pushes everything out of my melee range, and I miss 2 swings because things I was trying to swing into just aren't there anymore. They're on their ass, like 5 feet away.
That is the problem with beam staff, is it's not actually a pace tool unless you use it in conjunction with click, click, quick switch, beam staff, which insta kills 10 damage. 3, 6, so 3 damage, 3 damage, 6 damage plus. Yes. So you have to learn how, with Sienna, not to just willy-nilly apply your AoE just because you can. Just because you could do 2 damage doesn't mean it's the best thing for your team to be doing right now, because you might be denying someone else the opportunity to do more. So you should look for your chances. Okay, whatever. That's everything. Is that everything? Mace. Oh, Mace. I think Mace is meme for Sienna because it's pretty unsafe against hordes. You can meme if you want. It's you know what? It's not quite meme level. I think it's Johnny level.
It's I'll use it for Storm Weapon mutation.
Sure, of course.
For normal play, it's
a great pace tool, but it's rather inflexible.
It's okay, but yeah.
What else is there to talk about? We can talk about trinkets briefly. So Vermintide for a long time it's been the case, like since release, where trinkets are not nearly balanced, right? Some of them are outstanding and some of them are junk, and more of them have been brought up to the level of being pretty damn good. Like the changes to Seal, the Swiss Rider, and Gunnery made them from low tier to absurd, right? Some of them are still junk. I think Poison Flask is insanely overrated by some people.
They've made Dove of Shalia actually be good.
Dove of Shalia is fantastic now. It means you get double value. If you're a new player and you get Dove, play Dove. You can get hurt all the time. Someone else is probably going to get hurt every patch. If you are just learning and you're taking more damage than you should, no big deal. Heal both of you up. Double efficiency. Fantastic. I love Dove. Keep going.
I mean, let's go through all the trinkets here.
Sure.
Lichbone always has been great.
Why don't we just do alphabetical? Let's just do alphabetical then. Poison Flask?
Actually, yeah. Hold on. Yeah, I was the first on my list because I had it equipped.
Yep.
So yeah, Poison Flask is
way overrated in my opinion.
It's only for certain weapons. Like, it's good for a conflag.
I don't even think it's good for conflag.
Fine. I'm the DPS guy, so I guess it's good for me. But
in most cases, I think your team would be better served with a more team-oriented. Because it's not that it doesn't do anything. It's not that what it does isn't good. It's called, it's opportunity cost. What do you have to give up? If every other team trinket is taken, then yeah, sure.
Yes, obviously. Assassin Resist is I use it because it's the only thing that ends up killing me at my level of play and when I'm pubbing with people.
Is it literally an assassin doing 100% of your HP?
The assassin mixed with the clan rats that will start hitting me, yeah.
But the assassin does so little compared to the clan rats.
If an assassin bounces you cross map, it can easily do like 40 damage with the bounce damage alone.
Sure.
That's that will reduce that as well. And sometimes I lose a lot of health from assassins bouncing me from ridiculous places, and I never saw them coming because assassins,
I've said for a long time. I mean, I made a post about this when like Feb of 16 or something. That these trinkets right here, Assassin's Trinket, yada yada yada, need something to go with them. And the one I always liked for Assassin and Packmaster was it reduced all damage you take while you're pounced.
Packmaster got it on top of it being 80%. Assassin didn't. It did get 80%, which makes it good at actually like stopping the assassin from killing you by itself.
Yeah.
But like it only takes one clan rat to just come and like 37, you're dead.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So whatever. I mean, it is kind of what it is at this point. I doubt we're going to see any major balance changes left in V1.
Yeah, it's got its place, I guess. Like if you're getting assassinated because you're running ahead, then...
So warding has an occasional place in Death Wish.
Not just Death Wish now, because people are gonna die to Gunners a bit more than they were before, with them being stagger immune now and having the same health as Storm Vermins. And it is 80% now, so it actually does stop the damage.
We didn't talk about that, but I love that change.
But obviously, it's like most of the time, it's still going to be gas that's gonna kill you more than Gunners.
I think Bale Taurus head ornament is way underrated.
Yeah, it's like the description makes it look bad. Like if it was what the description said, it wouldn't be that great. But I've made the Reddit post before explaining that it reduces the damage you take by 75% instead of increasing your health, which mixed with distraction is ridiculous. Like you have the equivalent of 1,200 health now when you're down with this thing, which even in Cataclysm takes a while for that to be killed.
If you're a new player, and you get this, if it drops for you, wear it over basically anything.
You basically don't die.
Even if you're down, unless the whole team wipes.
Yeah, you only die if you're down and the rest of the team also gets down, or you're down on white health and then you just die because no downstinct,
Bonesaw, always good.
Still good.
I've always wanted to pick up players that were like revived.
Yeah.
For more clutch potential.
It would become. I don't use it much at all ever anymore.
Because of that.
I just like I trust second wind too much. But yeah, I would use it quite a bit more probably if it actually let me revive people that were fully dead. I
think the problem with Bordelot wine is it's such a low % chance. First of all, hold up. There's two problems with it. I've got two.
Think about it. If it was high enough that you could rely on it, it would be so impossibly overpowered. But actually, I've just seen someone get lucky with those things. Not just for the obvious speed and going at the speed of light through a map. Just strength. Like I've had times where it's just like strength, and then I proc it. And you don't have to bring the other strength because it doesn't stack. So you just wait the 10 seconds and you just keep moving through map with permanent goddamn strength.
Here's the thing, though.
It's ridiculous.
I think that popping potions for less than tactical uses, like really particular uses, is actually counterproductive because it decreases your situational awareness. And most of the time, Vermintide is not about maximizing output. It's about minimizing what you take. So most of the time, it's actually counterproductive to pop a potion unless it's the situation where you really need to kill something quickly, aka Ogre, aka Mass Armor.
AKA Massive Hold on Death Wish.
To me, I've always wanted to see Bordeaux wine double the number of potions you could carry or something like this. So
it'd be interesting to see like a less RNG version of those trinkets where it just lets you like always get 2 potions but not more.
Yes.
Like you wouldn't get those moments where you get 10 speed bots in a row anymore. And just
right.
What the hell to a map?
which by the way completely wrecks speedrunning as a thing because it's so absurdly which I actually thinking of banning it for 100% runs just because it means that someone could just grind it out harder than you. That's it. I hate that. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I've always thought that Masters Engineers tools should have the same thing. Not consumed, but basically deep pockets or whatever you want to call it. Okay, anyways, what do you think? I think Charm of the Hedge Wizard has always been fantastic. It's always got the same role, and it hasn't changed.
It's still the same thing. It's still good. Like it's seal share. It's great. The thing is here, it competes with Dovashalia. And like Dovashalia, in a situation where you have a med kit and you have someone else to heal, Dovashalia shines and is much better than the Hedge Wizard.
True.
But Hedge Wizard works with healing drafts.
Yes.
While Dovashalia does not.
Yes. I love having one of one in the team.
That is important. Yeah, when you have a sisterhood team, you usually want one Dove, which will take all the med kits and just get that massive healing on it. Like it's the strongest heal you get most of the time since you're somewhat low. But then you also have the one with the Hedge Wizard that takes the healing drafts, and then every healing draft also becomes a rather powerful instant heal. Okay, both have their place, and that's really good. Like they have 2 places that share similar roles, but don't overlap with each other.
Okay. Bomb Trinket. So
was nerfed, but
irrelevant.
It's kind of like it's same as the move speed. Like
they could literally remove the AoE increase, and it would matter not at all.
But yeah, but then it would be a dead trinket on, you know, Last Stand and below Nightmare, which is not good design.
Sure. Okay, so leave it as it is. I don't have a problem with that. What I'm saying is a lot of people have an issue with it because it trivializes like panic scenarios. And I agree. I see where they're coming from. But I think the problem with that, and maybe we shouldn't wander this way. Maybe we shouldn't wander the conversation this way. But I've really liked Bomb Trinket because it's opened up a whole nother range of clutch. The problem is that Kata doesn't have enough opportunities to clutch, so that trivializes the very few spikes that there are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
people are too good for Kata to be top difficulty. So they're like, fuck, this has made it even easier. I'm like, yeah, sure. That's why you should go download a mod. Or play Whiteruns. You know what I mean?
Onslaught has been really, really popular. I'm pretty sure Fat Shark is gonna
do these things
look at that and
oh,
do something with it with Vermintide 2. It's gonna happen.
There's no question. There's no question. They'd be so smart to do that. And they'd be so smart to say, oh my god, our players are doing so well. You know, it's 10% of the player base, maybe of the active player base, maybe even 20% of the active player base has beaten all of Kata, and maybe 15% has more than 100 wins in Kata. You know what might be time to do? Super Kata. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you could do it Death Wish, aka Super Kata, or you could do some other mutators. But anyways, I just want to say I think this was an amazingly cool change. I understand where people are coming from when they're talking about how it trivializes Kata, but I don't think the solution is go backwards. I think the solution is go forwards. Lichbone, I don't have much to say. It's the same as always been.
It's always great as soon as you have grimoires in play. It's like I have a hard time skipping it even just for one grimoire. It's unquestionable for two. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Can we go back a second? Adagar and Sidero had two different suggestions for bottle. One was to increase duration of pot when you drink it, and one was to increase effect. So we've had these discussions way in the past, and I think they're both reasonable suggestions.
Instead of duplicating, you could
instead of duplicating, and instead of my suggestion of have deep pockets, right? You can hold two. So my issue with increased duration and increased effect is typically one's enough.
Yeah. Yeah, like definitely. If I was to be given the choice between being able to hold two or getting like 300% duration, I would probably take holding two.
Because
you have much more control over that.
Yeah.
Than you all have with like. It doesn't matter to have 300% duration of strength if you're just killing an ogre and just moving through the map with nothing in your way.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And for speed, sure, but I don't want to balance around people popping chain speeds. I just want to make sure chain speeds is not a thing that's possible. An increased effect. Increased effect. I'm scared of people running faster than they do, but whatever, that's fine. I don't really see the issue with speed, other than it starts to get silly after a while. And with strength, again, overkill is going to be the issue. I think for both of those suggestions, the issue is overkill versus if you actually had two of them, you'd be more liberal with using the first one because you always know you have a second. It would be game changing if your potioneer guy, the guy who has pot share and Bordelot, could afford to spam one, or it'd be even cooler if you could have strength and speed, so you could have both available on command. Like, it would be pretty game changing. People would use it.
Yeah, like I've done it. Like it is ridiculous. Like I've had some man the ramparts where I just like casually pop strength and then dupe it multiple times, and like almost permanent strength through the map is just
silly.
Just walking through everything.
That is kind of cool. That is kind of cool. I'd also like to see less sound, less noise when you're popping potions. I like to see less light and sound pollution in general, because awareness is so important in this game. Anyways, especially for flame weapons and brace of pistols. Ugh. We never talked about brace, by the way.
Well, I mostly mentioned that it is like mostly an inferior repeater handgun in its current state. Yep. It lacks penetration. It lacks stagger on storm vermins. It lacks.
It just needs one or two of those things, and it would be fine. Oh, and a we did mention and a sound nerf. Moving on. Night Prowler cylindrical box outside of hot spicy meme bullshit speed runs is bad, and it's always been bad.
Well, Last Stand as well.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously.
Yeah, very, very specialized, weird usage. Its percent is too low, and it's too inconsistent. I don't know what you could do with this weapon. With this thing.
Just for the casual play, it's like it's not bad to get a proc on.
But it doesn't give you as much as.
You bring one, and that's it. It's like you don't need that many of them.
But okay.
But yeah, I know. Compared to other options, that top level play, it doesn't compare quite as well.
And God help you trying to make sure this person opens everything. So the pace cost, like I feel like you lose more than you gain 9 times out of 10 when you run this thing. If you try to run it in normal adventure mode.
Well, like you can't really buff it all that much, or it becomes quite like a bit too powerful because it affects all items and not just one type like the other two.
I have no idea what to do with this thing, but I don't want to see it in Vermintide 2.
I think it. Yeah. I don't know about Vermintide 2, but it's fine in its current state.
I don't want to see it, and I don't want to see Luck Trinket in Vermintide 2. I think they're I think they're both anti-social, right? They make pubs rage at each other for little benefit.
Well, if you want to bring Luck Trinket, it's fine, but make it affect the goddamn whole party.
Okay, maybe that's okay. Okay, that's okay. But I also don't want loot focused on gaining more loot. I don't want to go down that road. Pouch.
There is that, like the. Do I want more loot or do I want to be more powerful thing? It's just
I've always thought like that magic find in Diablo and such was a horrible thing too. And there's a reason it's not there in Diablo 3. It was always bad. Anyways, pouch is as good as it's always been. It's one of the most mandatory traits in the game.
It was laughable when they buffed it to 80%.
I think 60% is a good number.
Yeah, I remember a last stand during the time where it was 80%, and I just like stood in like 3 gas clouds.
Oh, you know what? A note I haven't thought about till this moment. They're gonna have to combine these anti-special ones for V2 because there's so many more units.
Oh yeah,
that'll be interesting to see. Rack, always nothing to say on it. Rainbow fish.
There's a point here that it isn't as good as it could be because of the proc chance in this one. Like this one's proc chance is actually low enough that it makes it not be great because you really can't rely on a 20% proc chance or something like that.
I mean, how many heals does even a player who's chugging take a game? 3?
Yeah, that's the thing.
4? Maybe. Even if it's your heal sharer and there's a lot of white health people. Maybe 6? So maybe 1 heal plus 1 heal per game.
The thing is, like, you don't need to drink twice in a row ever.
Yeah.
Like you might like to throw 2 bombs in a row. You're not gonna drink a healing draft twice in a row because you're at max health now, unless you're wearing Sisterhood. Unless you're at the very edge case of wearing Sisterhood and then you're trying to chug multiple potions to top your team off, which you just need heal share, and you like even with heal share you're healing enough with 1 usually.
We've discussed Shalia. Nothing more to say on it.
Shalia's great.
Spine British discussed. Nothing else to say. Star, really interesting for parties where everybody's pretty close to the same level and you're pushing new content, especially Death Wish. Very bad for things like Onslaught.
Yeah, the thing with Death Wish is that you're sacrificing a lot less because like, Death Wish makes it so you have no down state, etc. And the respawns are longer.
True.
And it doesn't matter anymore if you're assisted hooded because everybody dies if anyone dies, so the longer respawns don't matter. And no down state doesn't matter because everybody's dead or everybody's alive. That's why again.
I think the thing about Star is if teams like even on Onslaught, they tend to be okay long as everyone stays up. But the problem is it's very rare to find a party where all 4 players have this roughly commensurate levels of situational awareness that are high levels of it. So one person doesn't get cut off by an ogre and the whole time dies. And
basically, like if one guy is better than all the others, then he gets dragged down and can't clutch anymore because the moment he would be clutching, then the others kill him. And if it's one guy that's too low, then it just annoys the other 3 because they're trying to carry all this damage he's taking. He might eventually just get one-shotted through all of the people's health.
What do you think
the entire group
of a Star of the Sisterhood light, where every time you take damage, the team takes a portion of that damage, and every time you heal, your team heals a portion. So it's not literally all 4 die in all 4, like all for 1, 4 for all, but kind of thing. But like.
Yeah, it would probably be a lot stronger if it was like 50% or something like that. But yeah.
That is something I would love to discuss with the devs. It's like a Star of the Sisterhood light. That would be cool. It would also be cool if we could program it ourselves to test it. Pure Luck, I've always hated it. Whatever, moving on. It should be party-wide, and that's the end of the story. If it's party-wide, I wouldn't complain so much. Valiant Emblem issue is it's only really good in weird things.
Also, they made this promotional event, and they gave this 75% version.
Yeah,
and no one else, like, if you didn't get it, you're fucked, because apparently there's no other way to get it anymore. Like, they probably need to find, like, make it so
they need
that
to nerf that one.
Way to, well, yeah, either put
just nerf it.
Put that one to 50%.
It was almost certainly a mistake.
I don't know why that 75% exists, and it also creates this ridiculous bug that if you die to Packmaster, you don't respawn ever.
Yeah. Okay, this has been way longer than it needs to be. If anyone's trooped through the whole of this, but I don't know.
We've rumbled with a lot of weapons here.
I think it'll be nice. I'm going to timestamp when we talk about like in general areas, so people can find what they're looking for, and post it up on the YouTube. So if anyone wants to know, for example, what Grim thinks about the Saltzpyre balance, it's there. Our long discussion on Repeater, my long discussion on Elf, blah 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 blah. So it's bordering on 7, and I promised the wife I'd get done at 7. So do you have any parting thoughts?
Not much, I guess. It's honestly all overall for the balance, it's a fairly good patch. I think they've done.
Oh yeah.
The changes to most of the weapons are good. Let's ignore the broken dagger for now. They might just fix it soon enough.
They're going to do something this week for sure, because else it's not going to be satisfying to people who bought the DLC. Okay, good. I agree. I think it's a great patch. Let's go back to the patch notes one more time, just to highlight the important ones that I really thought were great. I love what they've done with Longbow. I think Longbow is now cool.
I will be enjoying Longbow this patch for sure.
Dual daggers, I thought was already had a cool place that I've discovered only recently. The bully build, right? PB.
I think it needed it. Headshots, one shot. Like it's not. It's such a small change, and it's just like so much quality of life that. Why not?
I really hope for Vermintide 2 they do a better job making headshot-centric weapons kind of more even across the board. It's very, very hard to headshot with the first attack on dual daggers. But anyways, enough on that. I thought the True Flight change was great. I thought the handgun change was great. I think Flaming Sword is junk. I love Rattling Gunner changes. Like, there's so much that they did that was good. The KB nerf, the Hawkeye nerf. Like, this was a great patch for balance on every level, right? Normal kata play, advanced kata play, mod play, blah, 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 blah. I'm very excited for V2 because I think we're going to have so much more of an opportunity. They're going to have a much easier time balancing. So as a community, our job is, I mean, one, we got to bear with them and give them a chance with the growing pains of the game coming out. But two, I think we also, I hate to say this, but we can't accept the same level of treatment of balance that they've had with this game. It's been too slow for the whole life of this game. There have been issues since day one that have never been fixed. Never. Everyone knew that Packmaster Trinket was bad from day one, and it's just never been changed. So, Vermintide was...
Well, it has been now, but...
No, it's still bad.
Well, 80% of all damage is not that terrible. It's just like Packmaster is not a thing that kills you much. So like,
yeah, but it's too narrow. But anyways, my bottom line, and then the trait combinations, etc., like... There needs to be more responsiveness, 1, and 2, when they do major patches, there need to be follow-up, like small patches, correction patches, because how fast did we know haste was insane? A week at most?
Yeah.
Well, how fast did we know haste was insane?
I mean, obviously everybody knew like Repeater handgun would be the main one, and then we ended up discovering that the other one, Conflag, later on, and then it's like wasn't even the discovery wasn't even the problem. It was just the original one. Repeater handgun was like ridiculous.
It was just lol. And how many months has that been now? When was 1.9? Like 3 months ago at least?
I don't know, something like that.
More? Anyways, the bottom line is we need more responsiveness, and I think the balance team in Fat Shark needs to be more in touch with where the upper end is, because that's where the upper end is just setting the trends, right? So if they knew that haste was a problem, then all these lower end players wouldn't have wasted all of that time grinding out traits that are now less than optimal. I mean, I would be upset as a kind of casual player who spent 50 hours working towards this repeater, and now it's
it's like when I made that video way back in 1.3 of True Soling Well Watch with the Bolt Staff. It very much did set the pace of, oh my god, Bolt Staff and True Flight, you know? It's...
Yeah.
People were upset about the beam beforehand, and which I never knew because I joined the game after the beam nerf, the original beam nerf. And then I played the Bolt Staff from, like, I started Saina, playing Saina from get-go, and got the Bolt Staff, like, this weapon's just killing things without aiming, like, it's pretty good. And got good at the thing, it's like, boy, am I slaughtering everything. And then by level like 60 something, I rolled the Bloodlust or Doom Stability. The Bolt Staff has the least amount of trait combos in the entire game, so it makes it pretty easy to roll a perfect roll on it.
Yeah,
so I got the Bloodlust or Doom Stability fairly early on, then started just like annihilating everything in such a ridiculous way.
All right, let's call it.
Yeah, those sort of happened, everything. So
thanks for hanging out with us, folks.
Whenever something like that happens, like the cursed rune exploit, the haste repeater handgun being ridiculous. When the Bolt Staff was discovered for being absolutely bonkers, they need to do like
emergency fixes.
Yeah, emergency fixes basically. Like just if they like just put a goddamn invisible wall on cursed rune.
Yes.
Waiting until they had a whole complete fix for wall jumping.
Yes.
Like dump a retarded invisible wall on cursed rune. I don't care if it breaks my immersion because I can't jump on this little cliff. Like,
let's be fair though.
Locked invisible wall.
And I don't know if Silver Fox is going to comment on this, but here's my suspicion. My suspicion is Fat Shark isn't dumb. My suspicion is that it's hard for them to go from making a change on their end to wrapping it up into something they can ship to us. Like, it's not a trivial process with whatever their setup is, and that is why they wait to make big changes.
Yeah, it does look like they have to like recompile maybe the entire game every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have a suspicion that it's a non-trivial process, and every time they do it, there's a chance that something slipped through that they didn't mean to, or something like that. It'd be really cool to hear that confirmed, Fat Shark, if you're there. And
I think they have done work on that, because you remember at one point, like every single patch would be like god-awful big to download.
Yep.
They've made changes now so that the patches we download, unless they're like actual maps to download, the patches themselves aren't too big.
And I suspect
just a small change, like patch 1.9.11 wasn't a big download, just like a few code changes, just a few megabytes.
So I think you're right. I think that's a great anecdotal evidence that is the case, and I believe it'll be better in V2, because I'm sure that was a lesson learned for them. Yeah. That was one of their many lessons learned from V1, and that's one of the other reasons V2 is going to be such a good game, is it follows so much on the heel of so much that was good, and so much that if it was better, the game would be just outstanding. So we're so close. Anyways, I'm shutting up because we could keep talking about Vermintide, I'm sure, till 9 p.m. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. I'm closing the stream. I will post this, and I will repost my original like comments from beta on the Dagger too, so we can talk about that later, guys.